if I go and I like, box some dude, I'm just wasting energy on hurting him. Like, no, if you attack me, I'm going to assume you want to kill me. I'm going to kill you first. So
Is that the assumption in Krav Maga that it's
Yes.
life and death always?
Yes. And that is because just, going back to Israel, living in Israel is life or death. Israel can't afford to lose a single war. It does mean it's annihilation.
I'm just going to test this out.
I've been in anything from like fucked up cargo trucks to like armored personnel carriers. So you'll be surprised how many dudes you can fucking fit in a small metal box.
Yes.
You get to know each other based on the fucking smells, pretty much. Everything anyone's got going on with their body, you're intimately aware of, and I guess it does good for like the camaraderie and shit like that. I made a lot of friends.
When's the last time you were in one of those tight space situations? Because I assume COVID kind of put the brakes on some of those situations.
So I moved to Israel early 2015.
Yeah.
I actually went on something called Birthright, which is like, what Birthright is?
Yes.
Like a little trip. Yeah, right.
So quick tangent. My dad's Jewish, my mom's Catholic. I was raised Catholic, but I celebrated both holidays.
Yeah.
And I got an email from Birthright 2 weeks ago because I'd signed up a while ago for Birthright because I believe you have to have one Jewish relative that's at least your grandfather. Yeah. So one of my friends who went on Birthright told me to sign up. He's like, you're going to regret it if you don't at least sign up, and they'll send you the emails. And if you don't want to go, just don't go. And a couple weeks ago, I got the email that said, if you don't sign up for this next summer 2023, that's the last time you'll be eligible to go for free.
You age
so
out.
I put it on my planner, wrote it down. I was like, I'm gonna sign up.
All right.
If I don't get a spot, I'm not gonna.
I mean, they're pretty good with giving spots.
Yeah.
Like, there's enough trips where, they do trips in the summer, in the winter, sometimes in the spring. I mean, COVID did fuck a lot of the organization up. They tried to, play nice. A few of my friends actually work for Taglit, which is one of the main trip organizers. So a lot of people that are aging out, they're just giving them extended vouchers. I think they just made a new age group for people that are like 28 to 36. So the whole point of the trip essentially is to like get Jews to know, like, hey, we got a country apparently and shit, and a lot of us aren't here anymore that would have been otherwise, so make more small Jews and hopefully keep shit going.
Would you say it's worth it? Because here's the thought process going on in my mind. I've heard from my Jewish friends who went on Birthright that either one of two stories. It's either it was really fun and yes, a lot of your time is scheduled, but we still have time to go off and party and stuff. And then other times they were like, we're just in bunkers the entire time. The guards are like, you can't leave. And then 2 weeks straight, we're not doing anything on the schedule. So is there what's been your experience with it?
I would say, like, just real quick in general about Israel, try not to listen to the news. I mean, it's not like fucking Syria where it's like war torn, it's like it's first world country. It's all that good stuff. Birthright specifically, there's armed guards with you. They're usually like 22, 23-year-old dudes that just finish a draft and like need a job and like it pays well. I would say Israel tends to have a war like clockwork about every other year. So if you go on a Birthright trip, not during like some bullshit war or conflict, then you're probably going to have a pretty good time.
Yeah.
If you go during, you're not going to be in any imminent danger. But I mean, like, it's also a form of tourism. Some people like that shit, but if you don't like that, just do your research, like keep an eye in the area.
So tight spaces, what was the tight space situation in Birthright?
Oh shit. So in like, once you land and start your itinerary, like everyone's assigned a bus and like the bus becomes like your fucking gang. Like, some buses hate other buses and shit anyway. But, as far as, what it's like first getting in there, you really don't know people. You meet at a hub airport. Like our hub airport was New York City, so everyone from the United States and Canada like flew to JFK, and then we flew out of there. But as far as like the trip itself, like it kind of wasn't really jarring because you're just hanging out with a bunch of Americans. But like tight spaces being like, maybe you're also chilling in a cabin at like Padoya, which is like one of those like little vacation spots, like little bungalows and shit. There's like 4 beds in a room that's like half the size of this living room and shit, you know? So it's like, that gets pretty tight, but it's also co-ed, you know? So sometimes being tight's not that bad. I mean, dude, like part of the rumors about it are that you're going to go and like get frisky with like an IDF soldier. That's everyone's dream. And, like,
yeah,
that
you're going to find your Gal Gadot, bring her back and marry her.
Dude, I dated so I went on Birthright, and my best friend from the United States had moved to Israel prior, like full on immigration. He was begging me to come out. So like a year later, I went on Birthright, and fucker convinced me to stay. So I watched my plane back to New York take off, and I'm like alone now in this foreign Middle Eastern country. Like, what the fuck did I just do? So like, I had no choice but to like continue on. So I'm like, dude, I'm here now. Like, he's like, all right, man, take the train to Beersheba, the city I moved to, where he lived. We were going to be roommates, and he'll pick me up at the train station. That first trip was nuts, dude. It was like, you know, hey, you know, I don't want to like let on so much that I'm this clueless American, because that makes me a target, right? But I also legit need help from locals. And, you know, I think one of the biggest things is that when it comes to like Israeli locals, like a lot of people think like, oh my God, I don't know what to expect. But, you know, a lot of people are really willing to help you out, especially if you're Jewish. I don't know if it's kind of bad, like from a racial perspective, but like, you know, we all look at each other's families, so we try and look out for each other. So it wasn't really so bad. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. I could slide in with my last name for sure, because my last name is Grossfeld. It's Jewish. Yeah. Even though, you know, I look like I was hiding Jews in my basement during World War II, but my last name is very Jewish. And in terms of having the stereotype in your mind before traveling, I feel like I had so many stereotypes of how people acted in countries outside of America, or even outside of New York, because I grew up in Long Island, moved to Brooklyn. So I didn't go too far away from my parents, but I've traveled a bunch of places since then. And I'm always blown away by how wrong I was with what I thought the people were going to be, what I thought the people were going to be like.
For sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, there's always good and bad anywhere. You know, there's, like, go to Paris, you got the Eiffel Tower and all that shit, but you also have, like, you know, hoods just like anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to, like, world travel, and I've been to a few places, like, you know, Israel I lived in legit, but, like, I used to travel to Amsterdam, English, my bad, all the time. It's like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour flight, so you can go there like a trip to Florida, like, in the U.S., I also noticed there that people were a lot friendly. I made the mistake. I also speak a little bit of German. Dude, I spoke German to a Dutch person, and they were like about to hit me. They don't like Germans. Yeah. It's like, don't worry, I don't either. Well, I'm kidding. I do. I don't. I don't know. But
I actually brought you here. We're gonna fight after this. My name means big field in German.
Yeah,
so yes, exactly. It's gonna. So I don't speak any German, but I look like I should know some.
Yeah, I mean, you might have been on a poster in a different life. Who knows?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Poster. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. That's you know, it's putting the mugshot on the poster back in the day. Could totally see that with my face today. 100%.
I was thinking more, you know, let's say you were born 80 years ago, you would have appeared the type to be on one of those posters saying, hey, one country, one land, you know, like, let's work together. Like,
yes.
Yeah. Different haircut, different clothes, you would have fit the part, but
100%. Okay, yes. I'd have to. So pre-COVID, my haircut would have fit better. Yeah. Because now I grow it out. Now I'd be like more of a hippie Nazi, but like if I buzz cut it back, then I could definitely fit it on one of those posters.
Dude, I was the opposite. I went from having a whole life of buzz cuts and just like looking like a jarhead, right?
Yeah.
Then I just rebelled against my history and just grew my hair out for so long, and like had my hair down to my shoulders several times. Just recently did I keep it long on top, shave it on the sides, and it's like probably gonna end up making it short again soon, just because it's easier to maintain that way. But at least I always have a hair tie now for the chick down the street. So
100%. Yeah, it becomes part of you. It becomes I look at myself differently in the mirror with long hair than I do short hair.
Yeah, dude, you get the Tarzan instinct.
Yeah, as soon as your hair gets past your ear, the bottom of your ears, you're like, I can swing from vines. I can surf. I can teach yoga. All these things, and then as soon as I cut my hair, I'm just like all those skills just fade away.
Look at Jason Momoa, short hair when he was young, grew it long. Now he's fucking Aquaman. Like, that's how it works. It's the formula.
I actually so my hair was twice as long as this.
Okay.
And one of the pictures that I brought to the guy who cuts my hair, this is a few weeks ago, so the most recent time. One of the pictures was Jason Momoa with the hair this length, and I described the picture to him because I didn't want him to think that I looked like Jason Momoa. So I was just like, I'm showing you this picture of Jason Momoa because I want to look like the AIDS version of Jason Momoa who's blonde. Like I'm 120 pounds less of muscle, blonde hair. Like make me look like frail Momoa, and I will be very happy.
I'm dead, man. Soaking wet, maybe a little bit more of a contender, right?
100%. So how did you grow up? Because we're gonna get into the Israeli forces and everything that you're doing today. But first, I wanted to take a step back and get into what it was like for you growing up. What were your parents like?
All right, so I Frank Sinatra did. I was actually born in New Jersey, Elizabeth General, which doesn't exist anymore. Kind of weird to me. And I moved around a lot when I was young. Both my parents were in the military. They met in the Air Force. My father was originally in the Army, went to the Air Force afterwards, met my mother, first Persian Gulf War, I think, right in the 90s, broke out.
I was a fetus, so I'm going to trust you.
I was a fucking sperm cell.
Yeah, so, there we go.
Then, that was over with. They came back to the States. They got married. They had me. My father ended up passing away in 2002. He was not a smoker, but got lung cancer because he was exposed to certain shit that he shouldn't have. And, shit happens.
What was he doing? What was he doing when he was exposed? Like, what specific job was he doing?
In the Air Force, he was known as a PJ, a pararescue jumper. Basically, his job would be to go out and take care of your wounded casualties and get them on an aircraft to a field hospital to eventually like an actual hospital.
Okay.
Just in doing that, sometimes there's just fumes related to warfare you just breathe in, and it's it's carcinogenic as fuck and not good for you.
Yeah, like people are just burning shit all around you, and as part of what he was doing, he just
just exposure, man.
Yeah.
So then after he died, I moved to Florida for a couple years. Not really much happened there. Then I moved back to New York City, and like I moved to the Bronx, dude, and I went to this like really hood middle school in the Bronx. After having lived in Florida for long enough that I'm some like little white boy from like freaking Newport Richie, so it's like middle school was a big change for me, and I guess like I learned to get hard real quick. Then
were you getting a lot of fights?
I got into a lot of fights, dude, because I was always kind of big, so like I had a 50-50 chance between someone meeting me and be like, I shouldn't mess with this guy, or someone meeting me and like, that's a challenge. Let me try and mess with this guy.
And your beard was the same length it is now back in middle school.
I was born with a beard, dude. I was born with a beard. I just shaved it. I was in a Fox show about the Revolutionary War like last month, and I had to completely shave because beards weren't gentlemanly, and I had to play a character, and I missed my beard so much, dude. I had it down to like here. But yeah, no, dude. So that was a big change, like going through middle school and stuff like that. For high school, I went to art school. I went to the High School of Art and Design in Midtown. So like I think Tony Bennett and Tommy Hilfiger graduated.
Oh, wow.
And, I majored in illustration. So, I can draw pretty good, but then that doesn't really pay the bills. And just after that, I enlisted first into the National Guard here in the U.S. because I was a cap cadet for the Civil Air Patrol, like all through high school. And they're like, since you're a cap cadet, if you enlist, like you get higher pay grade, you get more benefits and shit like that. I'm like, all right, let's do that. Enlisted in the National Guard. I had AIT with basic training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. After that, nothing happened. The United States was not to the habit of bombing brown countries during that few-year period. So
yeah, they took some time off.
Yeah, exactly. Did absolutely nothing. Have no combat action badges to my name. And I'm like, okay, so I did that, and that kind of sucks.
It's like in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. She wasn't constantly abusing Johnny Depp. There were some good times.
Yeah.
And then after the good times, you got to get back into it. You got to start bombing countries again.
Yeah, and dude, one of the most fucked up things was I remember like when the U.S. military switched to like the ACU uniform, the digital looking one that doesn't blend in with anything, but with the black beret for infantry, right? So I'm like, dude, I want a fucking black beret. That's cool. I joined in 2012, and they had just started phasing that black beret out for the stupid patrol cap, which is just a camouflage baseball cap in the same pattern. And I was so pissed my whole time. So it's like, fuck that. Now all the young kids who look at me as an old guy, they're wearing all the cool multicam and stuff like that, which, you know, I wear when I go out and play airsoft and stuff. But it's like
with multicam. Is the multicam like the new hat, the new gear?
Multicam is the pattern of the uniform.
Multi-camouflage. Okay.
Yeah, multi-camouflage. So,
Got it.
just look sexier, dude. You don't look like a fucking duvet cover from your grandma's house.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah.
And then after that, I tried again to get into the arts. Not to much success because, you know, recession, people aren't buying art, especially from unknown artists. I started making...
So this is back in like 2008 then?
2014.
Financial crisis, 2014, okay.
Yeah.
It's like the second wave of recession.
Yeah, kind of like that when that second big bubble burst from people, you know, buying up all the shit from 08.
Okay, so you were fighting in middle school. You took the break to be artsy in high school.
Yeah.
Then you were in the special forces. Hey guys, this is a quick reminder that the two best ways you can support the show are by 1, leaving a rating and comment on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. This is like foreplay for the algorithm because it revs it up and makes our show appear higher in searches. And number 2, you can subscribe to AUXORO Premium at auxoro.supercast.com, where for $5 a month you get bonus episodes and more exclusive content. Thank you for however you choose to support the show.
No, I was in the National Guard.
National Guard.
Just a basic grunt.
Just the basic grunt.
No,
okay.
I did not touch American Special Forces.
And then you went back into art.
Yeah, tried to. Then went into making body armor. That also didn't sell because school shootings weren't a thing yet. So then around the time that happened here is when I moved to Israel. And then when I stayed in Israel and kind of became like a legal resident there, the draft law then applied to me. So because I was under 26 years of age, I got drafted. And I was like, I have no choice, or I can go to jail for like not answering the draft. So it's like,
were you aware of that moving to Israel, or was it a notice that came in the mail and you're just like, oh shit,
Well, it was a notice that came in the mail, but I knew it was coming, and I wasn't like scared of it because my friend had moved there a year before. He had already been in the army for like 6-7 months at that point. So it's like, and in Israel, in the army, when you're there, even when you're home, like you got your weapons and your kit all there because at any point you could be called up to like go do some shit, you know? So it's like you can be on the beach in a bikini, and by law, if you're a soldier, you have to carry an M4 or a fucking Tavor, you know? Like,
so that's where all the photos of these hot girls walking around in Israel with AK-47s, they're just like, it's because they by law, they have to carry it with them.
Not AK-47s, M4s, M16s, Tavors, but yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. AK-47s are what shoot at us.
It's
so
like in 8th grade, we had that project where you had to carry a baby with you at all times. You had to keep the baby alive. Yeah, so they knew they could send you to high school, that you weren't brain dead. You had to keep an electronic baby alive for a week.
Dude.
And then if you handed it back in, that's kind of like the guns, carrying around the guns in the Israeli forces.
And the funny thing is, too, like, you know, you talk about here in the U.S., people go into like the movie theater with a fucking M4 or AR-15, you know, they lose their minds. In Israel, you go grocery shopping, you go to daycare, you go to pay your bills, government offices, and, you know, schools. Like if you're a teacher, there's armed teachers there and shit. There's no school shootings in Israel, dude. That shit gets shut down right away.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, since you brought it up, what do Israelis think of the school shooting culture in America? Are they just like, what are you doing? You know, this could easily be prevented. So, how do they think about it?
I mean, there's two kinds of Israelis, dudes. There's Israelis that are from Israel, a couple generations in, you know, and they view self-defense as literally life or death. You know, a terrorist can come in my bedroom window and cut me and my kids' throats. I need something to defend myself. The United States' gun culture stems, you know, from us and the British and fighting for our independence. And we look at it as a way to give us an insurance against like a tyrannical government, right? So it was never designed for school shootings, you know? I mean, But going back to what Israelis think of it, the Americans that move to Israel see Israel completely armed, and the fact that there are no mass shootings, and they're like, well, what's wrong with America? And that becomes then a mental health thing. So most Israelis just in general think that the United States needs to focus on their mental health. Like, you know, in Israel, we have police too, but they're not going to respond to a dude having a schizophrenic episode. You know, they're going to be there to protect the medical professionals that go out there. Because, you know, here in the United States, the cops don't know if you got some mental issues. And, you know, some people get shot up, right? Cops scared. He doesn't know what's coming on. And that's really the problem. Cops have a lot on their plate, and they should really just focus on, you know, law enforcement and stopping, you know, the real bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just watching the active shooter series on Showtime, going through all these school shootings or public shootings that happened. The first episode was the shooting in Aurora, and it's just
movie theater, right?
Yeah, Aurora movie theater, and it's just going through the methodical planning of this guy sitting in the movie theater and then going out to his car, collecting his weapons, coming back in, his whole mentality, just basically spraying everyone in the movie theater. And same thing with schools. You'll see a lot of people in the schools that either come in with a gun or they have it stored somewhere and they go get it. And when you throw the mental health issue into the mix, it's obviously a big part of the gun debate, but sometimes I feel like making mental health such a deep cut in the gun debate complicates things more than you have to, because I don't care how unmentally healthy you are. If teachers were armed and taught how to use weapons properly, if a kid even thinking about shooting up a school saw someone else on TV try to shoot in the school, and before they even got in the door they just got blown to pieces, that kid's gonna at least be like, maybe I should not. Maybe like if you see someone else just get blown down, like if that started happening, shooters just getting just blown to pieces before they could even shoot a single kid, that would change even an unhealthy mind. I mean, I don't know what the solution is. I'm not smart enough to come up with it. It's so nuanced.
The
and so
thing
complex.
is, I don't really think there's a solution. You know, first of all, even just comparing the two countries, U.S. and Israel, for example, Israel's population for the entire nation, all population is like 11 million. There's more than that in the 5 boroughs of New York City. So it's like, you know, gun laws apply differently in those different places because your statistical chances of a mass shooting are just literally lower, right? With less people. When it comes to, like, you know, fucking kid wanting to shoot up his school and then sees another kid who did the same thing, he got blown away. I mean, think of the Vikings, dude. They saw their people die in raids and were like, I want that too. Let me go to Valhalla. So it's not really like a blanket solution. The only solution to that is when you are the guy getting blown away, because then you're no longer shooting other people up. My personal opinion in the United States is I think guns and, you know, gun ownership should be treated like driver's ed. A lot of people don't realize it, but any single time you're on the road, you're in charge of like a 5,000-pound cruise missile. And, you know, that can mow down 15 people in a crowd.
Yeah, and people do. People do, like people dozens of people.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, you know, but it's not an epidemic of people running into crowds with their cars. And, you know, not for anything. That's because people have to get a license that is highly encouraged, even from the time of them being educated in high school, right, with driver's ed. And they learn the dangers and the correct operation of such shit. You know, aside from school shootings, you hear all the time that these kids are in their parents' home. They find daddy's gun, they're playing with it, and they blow their own brains out because they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Guns aren't toys. They have one purpose. That purpose is to absolutely destroy whatever the fuck they were pointed at, and that's what they do all the time. Yeah. And, you know, I am one of those people that say guns don't kill people. People kill people, and that's just the literal fact of it. But I think if, you know, in a country that has such a large population that, you know, sees gun ownership as a natural right to their nationality, the least you should do is educate everybody on what the hell a gun is and what it's for and how dangerous it is. Because anyway.
That's interesting to have gun ownership be similar to driver's ed? So you're going through classes when you're 15 or 16, and then once you complete a certain number of hours, you pass the test.
Yeah.
You do background checks, all this stuff in addition to what already exists with owning a weapon. Then you can go on and you know how to shoot it like you drive a car.
Exactly. And then, get it if you want it. If you don't want it, cool. No one's going to put a gun to your head, so you have a gun too. But at least you know how they work. And even knowing how a weapon works puts you just at that much more of an advantage if you're ever facing a weapon. You know, for example, I know from my own experience that if I put my hand on the muzzle end of your pistol and I'm able to get your slide out of battery, you're not going to be able to fire your gun. And from that point, I can grab it and then point it at you.
Yeah.
So the average person on the street doesn't know that, just going to stare down the barrel of that gun until they get shot. Yeah. And that just sucks.
Yeah, it's a weird thing sometimes because there are a lot of people and a lot of very powerful people that think that because you learn how to do something and because you have more information, that's going to cause you to then, once you engage with that activity, improperly or dangerously. And you see that a lot with drug culture where people don't even want to touch drug education and tell you, the big three that you're going to encounter when you go to college: alcohol, weed, and stimulants like cocaine, Adderall, things like that. Every teenager should have the information of what each of those drugs is going to do to your body, whether or not you want to take it, because maybe your friend's going to be in a situation where you could literally save their life or talk them through a panic attack or something like that. And I think that would be extremely helpful. But there's some people that say, oh no, just giving kids that information is going to make them want to do it more, where I see it as the exact opposite. The more you learn about drugs, the more you know how much of a risk it is to use them improperly or use them at all, depending on what your preferences are. And I would assume the same thing would happen with guns, that the more training and information people have, the more people will realize that, I don't want to fuck with this shit improperly. I need to be properly trained in order to touch a gun. I'm not going to buy a weapon out of the trunk of some dude's car and then act like I know how to use it because I saw John Wick.
Dude, that's the basis of how the human mind works. Even with something like flying, the human's basic fear is falling from something high and being up high in the first place. All that's involved in flying, right? So it's like, you want to learn how to fly a plane, you see the dangers in it, you might change your mind. And the thing is, someone who's not going to change their mind is going to do what they're going to do no matter how much education they do or don't have. And the point of education isn't to stop the people who are hell-bent on doing what they're doing, but it's to reinforce and give, somewhat of an armor to the people who do know what they're doing and don't want to take part in it in a certain way. So
because of your training, do you find yourself being in a crowded space, something like a movie theater or a grocery store, where you're thinking about the exits or things like that, where you're like, if someone pulls out a weapon in the front row of Batman, like the new Batman, this is exactly what I'm going to do.
Dude, I walk into a room and I try and remember faces. I keep an eye on people's eyes, where they're looking at and where their hands are. And I do take notice of exits. And I'm pretty confident I'm hard to kill. So
I'm going to keep my hands up here for the rest of the podcast.
It's all good, dude. You're not a threat. Don't worry.
So you had to learn Krav Maga in the Israeli forces. Could you explain what Krav Maga is for people who aren't familiar with it? And I include myself in that characterization.
So at the basic level, it's classified as a martial arts like Kung Fu and Taekwondo and shit. It's specifically an Israeli martial art, and if you watch it in action, it kind of looks like dirty street fighting. And that's exactly what it is. You're taught to go for some dude's nutsack. You're taught to go for their throat. You're taught to poke out their eyes. Because the object of any war, even a war between you and one other person with your hands, is to win as fast as possible, because only then you're out of danger. If I go and I box some dude, I'm just wasting energy on hurting him. Like, no, if you attack me, I'm going to assume you want to kill me. I'm going to kill you first. So
is that the assumption in Krav Maga, that it's life and death always?
Yes. And that is because just, going back to Israel, living in Israel is life or death. Israel can't afford to lose a single war. It does mean its annihilation. So, we're the reigning champ for a reason. But going back to the Krav Maga, it's also pretty cool because it's like you can have, a 5'1" chick being able to take out and kill a guy that's like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
And it's really helpful. It's not that hard to learn. It's literally taught to us in massive like classrooms. And my instructor for the longest time was like a 19-year-old chick that was like half my size and weight, dude. She put me on my ass more times than I can count.
Really?
It was, yeah.
So what would she do to someone like you? And if you're listening to this, if you're not watching the video, what would you say your height and weight is?
So I'm 6'4" and right now like 325.
Okay, so you're 6'4", 325, and this chick was like 5'1", you said, like 130, something like that?
At the time I was like in my 230s. I was a lot, thinner back then, but I was still bigger than her.
Still like size, over a foot on her.
Exactly. So her biggest thing was going for my legs, because the phrase, the bigger you are, the harder you fall. So once you get your opponent on the ground, he is no longer focused on fighting you. He's focused on getting back up. And once he's on the ground, he's then vulnerable for a lethal strike. So at that point is, when you break a neck or when you stab a throat or when you drive a knife into a spine, you get them on the floor. If you're somewhat equally matched, you're going to want to focus on deflection. You're going to want to watch their hands and their eyes, just like I said earlier, because that's going to tell you their next move. You're going to wait for their next move. You're going to deflect it, move it out of its way, and have it lose its energy, and then you're going to strike. And, you're not going to punch it back. You're going to rip his throat out. You're going to kill him. So Krav Maga is very quick, and that's really the whole point of it.
It sounds so intense and so foreign to me. The only self-defense or martial art that I have experience in is Muay Thai. I've been doing Muay Thai for almost 2 years now, a couple times a week. And obviously it's considered a competitive sport if you choose to compete. So there are rules. You're not allowed to rip someone's throat out. If I could, I doubt that I'd be able to, or like kick someone in the nuts. So you're like all these, there's still a lot of wiggle room that you can have within the rules of Muay Thai, but it sounds like Krav Maga is basically like what you said, street fighting, a lot of the things that are barred from traditional martial arts and then doing them quickly and violently.
That's exactly what it accurate? Is. Yeah. Krav Maga pretty much is a conglomerate of every effective move from every martial art in history, just mixed in its own pattern of effective ways to use them.
And it's all about violence and efficiency. Like
it's actually
no extra movement. Like how can I kill this dude or
any
girl?
extra movement is a waste of energy. Any waste of energy is that clock of life ticking down.
Yeah.
So I mean, and it's easy to learn, dude. In 5 minutes, I could teach you to get out of a chokehold and someone holding a gun to your head. So it's really easy to pick up. And there's classes all around. Even New York City where you can learn it. So I highly recommend it.
No, I would totally be interested in at least taking a class just to see what it would be like.
Hell yeah. And you'll learn a lot from an intro class too.
Yeah. Because I think about that now more than ever because of the subway shooting that happened.
Dude,
I've never been on the subway and I've been I've never been on the subway and I've been fearing for my life, which is saying a lot in New York City because there's some crazy fucking people on the subway. But I've always thought in the back of my mind, oh, this is New York City. This dude's crazy as fuck, but nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. And then the last time the first time I was on the subway after the shooting, I was going to Yankee Stadium. So a long ride from Brooklyn all the way up to the Bronx. And every time the door closed, I was thinking in my mind, okay, I'm in this metal box for the next 3.5 minutes.
Trapped.
The conductor can't do anything. No one can do anything.
If
someone decides to pull if someone decides to pull out a weapon or even just punch someone in the face and that starts a brawl, literally nothing. It's a box that's closing. It's like in the movie Spider-Man where they close the fucking cage and Peter Parker's in there with the fucking dude that's 4 times his size. That's what I felt like on
like 60 feet on the ground to top it all off.
Yeah.
Like, it's a shitty situation.
And all those things start to run in your mind and the anxiety makes it worse. So I imagine knowing something like Krav Maga that's built to de-escalate those type of situations one-on-one could be very advantageous.
You know, ironically, I've run the scenario through my head. If someone pulled a gun on me in a subway,
yeah, what would you do?
I'd take the gun from him and shoot him, but then I realize then I'll probably get shot by the police when they do come, because now that guy's dead and I'm holding a gun. So it's like, you know, that's where it comes to, like, you know, really, what would you do? I mean, I guess realistically, I'd, you know, get the gun out of his hand, not shoot him, and just try and restrain him. But, you know, then I don't know if he has a knife on him. So it's like, you can't tell.
Is there a way to explain how you would take a gun from someone in podcast form, or does it really have to be a visual? Like, because I'm imagining if someone was, let's say you were 10 feet away from me on the subway.
Okay.
The first thing in my mind, if I'm the shooter, is that I want as much space as possible between me and the target, because if they get closer, that means I can lose my gun. So how do you close the space on someone to take their weapon without getting shot?
Okay. So it really depends on how far you are. If you are pretty far and the moment you move, you're going to get shot, the answer is actually run away.
Run away, okay.
The thing is, when someone's mugging you on the street, 99% of the time they don't want a murder charge, they want your money. So chances are they are going to do it up close, because with more distance you get more witnesses, or at least a possibility of. If I'm, you know, sitting here and someone points a gun at me and they're within arm's reach, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at their trigger finger. If their trigger is inside the trigger guard, I would use the trigger guard to break their trigger finger by twisting it away from their hand.
So inside the trigger guard means they're ready to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, you know, at that point, I'm gonna assume that they're gonna kill me right now.
Okay.
So I will take the chance at grabbing the gun itself and twisting it, because the moment I do twist it away, it's also not pointed at me, even if it fires. I will break their finger. Once their finger is broken, I will slide the gun off their finger, put it in my hand, put them at arm's length, and then the gun, the hand that has the gun, I will put next to my waist and rack it so I can chamber another round. That enables me to immediately be able to retaliate with the weapon I just commandeered, and keeps him from being able to grab it back from me. So that's, I hope that works explanation wise.
Yeah, no, I listening to it, I can get a pretty good visual in my head.
Cool.
So I don't know if you've been on self-defense TikTok at all, but there's a lot of videos with one guy in particular. I don't know his account name.
Dude, is it the black guy with like the short jerry curls?
Yes.
And he teaches people how to kill themselves, basically.
So his videos are insane. They all get 20 million views.
Yeah.
And people come at him all the time in the comments, from what I've seen, saying this is complete bullshit. And I don't know if he's doing Krav Maga or something, but he's doing something where you're taking a gun away from someone at close range and disarming them and then using it to shoot them. And people say that, oh, this is bullshit. If you try to do that, he's just going to shoot you the instant you reach your hand out. If you've seen any of those videos, what do you think about the way he's going about it?
I haven't really seen him on TikTok, but I do know who you're talking about because I've seen it on Facebook. I don't know him or of him well enough to know if he's using Krav Maga or not. I mean, at a glance, it looks like it could be based off Krav Maga. I don't know if he went to a couple Krav Maga classes and then left like, I got this, I can do it on my own and build on it. The thing is, though, with Krav Maga, while the goal is to kill your opponent as fast as possible, you do enter that engagement expecting to also possibly die yourself. It's the same thing with warfare. If you hope to survive, you're going to die because you're going to get afraid. If you expect to die, you might get lucky and live, and that's all good. But that expectation of death and your own mortality is what drives you to go off of pure instinct and come out of a situation alive. And the psychological aspect is, Krav Maga itself specifically puts your opponent's fear of death in their mind. They're going to see, holy shit, you're not afraid to come at me when I'm pointing a gun at your head. Like you're fucking nuts. I'm not going to mess with you. And, hopefully your attacker runs away too. But then again, like I said, if there's a 100% chance of you getting mortally wounded, your best option is to run away because people really don't have that good aim.
That's fascinating. So you're you have to let go of life in order to preserve your life. Like if you're too invested in your own life, you could fuck up and get yourself killed.
It's like you ever been doing something that shows something off to someone, and it's like you're concentrating and you fuck up, but it's like you do it by yourself and you get it perfect. It's like that.
Yeah, it's like I was doing something recently where I was reading off the teleprompter app on the iPhone. And just reading an intro or something like that. And because I was thinking about it so much, the words were in front of my face. I was fucking it up, which the teleprompter is designed to alleviate the anxiety and the need to have to remember it. And that was making me mess it up. And then finally, I just closed the app. I was like, I'm just going to say what I have to say. Did it in one take and was like, why am I like
it's the fear of performance, man.
Yeah.
It's a form of stage fright. And it that's actually what makes the difference between a civilian and a war fighter. Certain civilians don't make it into any kind of occupation like that because they cannot let go of that urge to live.
So the mentality with Krav Maga is completely different than other martial arts, because when you're sparring with someone, you're not like, I've never I guess you do know that death is a possibility. Mm-hmm. If you're a professional martial arts fighter in UFC, Bellator, or something like that, you go into a fight knowing that you could possibly die.
Like break your neck or some
very
shit.
high chances you're not going to, but you could get seriously injured. Death is a possibility. In Krav Maga, for you to be able to enter an interaction with someone, like, I guess there'd be a form of sparring to it, but it's very...
We can spar in
you can spar in Krav Maga?
Yeah, so the sparring basically is the same. It does hurt. You get bumps and bruises. The only thing is when it comes to a lethal strike, you just don't do that part. You don't actually drive a knife into someone's throat. But, when you go like that, that signifies that at that point you would have driven a knife.
Yeah,
so that's
like
how you
you're
practice.
dead. Like you use rubber knives or something like that.
Yeah, we do use rubber knives. A lot of it is just hands. Budget cuts. Rubber knives are expensive, so hands get it done.
So, what was it like interacting with terrorists in the Israeli forces? Because I know you've had some experience arresting terrorists. Like, what is it like to arrest a terrorist in Israel as part of the IDF?
So I've never arrested a terrorist by myself. I've always been with a team who has
You've always just killed them on the spot.
No, not at all. No, CNN should not hear that either because they hate us enough.
I'm just kidding.
So,
Worst rip their balls out. Did not inflict death.
I mean, dude, have I wanted to kill someone that just stabbed a nurse from a hospital? Yeah, sure, because that guy's a piece of shit. I mean, I've tackled terrorists. I've actually been slashed by a terrorist in my arm. It's a small scar because I was wearing a lot of clothing. But I went into a door and the fucker came at me, swiping down with his knife.
Jesus.
And I'm like, at first I thought he punched me, and then the guy behind me shot him. And then I feel like, oh, that's wet. So I lift up my sleeve and I see like a little bit of blood coming down. I was like, that just happened. As far as arresting terrorists, I was at a checkpoint once. And so our dogs from OCETs are trained to sit if they, sense anything wrong or smell any kind of explosive. So that's to not alert the terrorists that we're, catching on to them, because then they might hit a switch and blow us up. So as soon as our dog sits, we check out who he was standing next to, and we take them into a secondary inspection, just like an airport. Dude, this one guy, we fucking wanded him down and nothing went off. I'm like, what the fuck? The dog doesn't sit, like that for no reason. Yeah. Turns out the dude had a butt plug up his ass filled with explosives.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude, we call ordnance to come in and take it out. Like, we handcuff him to the table so you can't run away. They pull it out and it's hollowed out and shit, but there's no detonator. So it turns out it would have never worked. I don't know what possessed this dude to stuff his explosive up his ass. I guess he wanted to kill himself for the cause, but
he wanted to kill himself and experience just a slight moment of pleasure before the end. Dude. Like right when it ignites, you'll just get it'll hit the G spot and then you'll just disintegrate into the ether.
Look, I guess there's worse ways to go, but I mean, when it came to the arrest itself, I was the one who had to fill out one of the main reports because I was one of the people that were there from the start. So the first 2 minutes of that was me like, how the hell do I put this on paper? So I literally wrote it down in broken ass Hebrew, dude, just like I told you. And then I went through an experience I almost got blown up today. Dude, I remember in middle school hearing about IEDs in Iraq. I almost ended up in a bucket like that dude 10 years ago, you know? So that was nuts.
That's fucking horrifying. I can't imagine to know that you're that close to a dude who on any other day could have just detonated it right there. The last thing you would have seen and smelled was just like a fucking explosion and I guess just huge explosion. Has to be extremely nerve-wracking on a day-to-day basis.
And emotionally it was weird. I didn't feel that much hatred to him. I don't know why. I think I was more grateful that I was okay. I guess maybe I got mad at him later, but I'm at one point I was willing to die, both for the United States and Israel, right? So I'm thinking about this guy, as fucked up as his cause may be, I get liking a cause enough to die for it. So I think that's why I wasn't mad. But yeah, dude, it was just nuts.
Yeah. That probably, I would imagine that would make you better at your job if you don't get emotional towards the cause for what someone is trying to kill you for. Like if you just, obviously it's fucked up, but if you accept that this is the way that guy is, he grew up, his parents wanted to kill groups of people, he got brainwashed at whatever point in his life, and this is just the guy in front of you. He's going to do this whether you like him or not. And
he has no idea
job
who
is
I
to just
am.
Stop him.
Exactly. I'm just his target. I'm a number, so it's not personal. I mean, sometimes it is personal, but it's also not. I get it, so are most guys like that in the IDF, where they're able to emotionally separate the motivation of people? Is that something they teach you? Do they tell you, like, listen, don't think about it too much. These people are just going to try to cause destruction. Your job is to just de-escalate it as quickly as possible. The thing about Israeli society is, there's a lot of Palestinian Arabs and Christians and Druze within society. They're cops, they're judges, everything. Israeli school children more or less are taught tolerance, just like, any other sane country is taught. All humans just want to live. Racism, stupid. Don't kill someone because your God told you to. That kind of shit. There is kind of a mindset when you grow up in Israel, and this is what I've learned from my friends, because I didn't grow up there, but according to them, they feel some kind of way when they hear, their favorite dude from the ice cream shop was in the reserves, went out on an operation and didn't come back, so I get that kind of resentment. But I really do think it's more of a resentment that there's wickedness in the world and not necessarily on the people that took part in that event. For example, we also have a little card, a laminated card that gives us like 16 steps before we can even shoot somebody. So
16 steps before you can shoot.
It's like the first thing we have to do is yell out in Hebrew to stop, you're approaching a military checkpoint. Then we're told walla walla ala, don't move or I'll shoot in Arabic. Then we have to load our guns because they're not loaded unless we're in a war zone. We load our guns, that's another step. We cock our guns, it's another step. We point, it's another step. Shoot in the air, another step. Ground, another step. Wound, then kill. And that all takes place in a sequence of events. It's not like the cops here in the States that shoot to kill right off the bat. Like a lot of the soldiers that do die in Israel from these attacks die because they tried everything they could to avoid taking a life, So,
they're going through the checkpoints and they got
it's rules of engagement, dude. And fucking CNN still says, like, we kill Palestinian babies. Like, we don't grill them, we don't eat them, we don't do that. I promise.
It's I mean, it's wild because, especially for someone like me, I'm fortunate where I grew up in a relatively non-violent section of society in Plainview, Long Island. Went to high school. Worst thing that happened was I got in a few fights. Same thing in college. And I've never really been confronted with a situation knowingly that could have taken my life. Maybe I've been walking and an air conditioner fell behind me 30 seconds after I walked by that spot, but I don't know about it. But like, I've never consciously been in a situation where
no near-death experiences.
No near-death experiences, whether it's been an accident, like a vehicle or something like that, or someone's been trying to kill me. So, I mean, I'm fascinated by it because part of the reason that I started doing Muay Thai is because, like a lot of people, I had a lot of time to think in quarantine and was always wanted to try some sort of martial arts, and striking looked the most interesting to me. So I started it, and I hope that there's some sort of foundation that's being built that will allow me to defend myself in an actual situation where I should need to do that. But even if I'm hard sparring, there's a understanding that this is playful. We're not trying to kill each other, but in an actual situation where you're fighting a stranger on concrete, his friend comes out of nowhere, soccer kicks you in the head, like you go to the ground, like someone tries to stab you with a bottle, like it's wild, the things that can happen to you that you don't really know until
you
it
can't
happens.
prepare for it.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, I've seen people who were very experienced at fighting who've killed people. I've seen them go down in a fight. I've seen people who are trying to collect all 150 Pokemon whoop some dude's ass. So I think at the end of the day, it comes down to your personal will to live. And that's like the X factor whenever you get into something. So you do have to accept that you might not live, but you have to want to live more than the other person. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things.
When you've been in those type of situations in the past, before something gets violent, is there something you say to yourself mentally, or some sort of mindset you try to get into? Because I'll see a lot of videos where some guy's about to get attacked by a drunk dude who's mouthing off, and it looks like in many of those situations there's a sense of calm that comes over the guy before he just unleashes extremely violently, like just for 10 seconds, just fucking fuck some dude up. But before that, he's like going into a place in his mind where he's like, all right, this is happening.
He's about to cross that threshold.
Yeah, he's like,
dude,
I need to get in this mindset.
Whenever you're in a bar, dude, and you're having a confrontation, if they pause, stop speaking, and look away for a second, you get ready to fight, get hit, or run away. Because, you know, the natural human brain, we don't want to hurt each other. You know, we all have this sense, you know, we're in the same species. You know, why do that? It's counterintuitive. So even if you have to hurt somebody, even if you have to defend yourself, part of you is always not going to want to. And, you know, if part of you does want to, then that's where you get the psychopaths of the world. As far as what I would do to prepare to go in violence, I mean, I could say it now because I'm no longer there. I used to smoke a bunch of blunts. You know, that helped take the edge off. Cigarettes, all that kind of shit. These are the man-made kind of what do you call that? Artificial, you know,
stimulants or
stimulants and downers.
Yeah, stimulants and downers.
We used to get methamphetamine tablets, like that were
like Adderall, basically, kind of a version
I guess,
of it.
Yeah, like, you know, whatever they synthesize. So, you know, they would give us drugs to calm us down. They would give us drugs to wake us up. I remember having a prescription for Ambien for like a long ass time.
So you could get it from the IDF. They would be the ones.
Sometimes it's issued to you. It's not like a running prescription. Like if you're going to have an operation that's going to take 36 hours and you're going to have to pull like 16-hour shifts, they're going to give you, you know, a government issued lab created stimulant. And, you know, it's not like you get a bottle of it. You get like one in a little tear package. And it's just for that. So, you know, that cuts down on the addiction and shit like that. Do people get addicted as well there though? Yeah, they do. I mean, dude, I smoked hash every day. Hash is more available there than flour is in New York.
Yeah.
It's cheap. It's plentiful. It's easy to hide. It's kind of tolerated by law enforcement. So, that's what I would do to prepare myself for violence. I also found myself, especially living in Israel, a more religious person. So I put myself in a mindset that, you know, I believe in a creator that put me in this place at this time to do this thing for this reason. And I have no control over that, you know? So, and that kind of helps with the compartmentalization of, you know, going into danger, having to perhaps be the danger in someone else's life, you know? So it does require therapy, dude. Like I went through a lot of therapy over there, you know, I go through a lot of motions where it's like, you know, that happened. There's nothing I can do about it. Move on. So that's kind of the way I go into danger and the way I come out of it too.
Yeah. That's interesting. 'Cause I imagine take for instance the guy who had the C4 dildo shoved up his ass. He's telling himself, I imagine, something along the lines of what you were saying, where I'm here for a reason. My God put me here. I'm going to carry this out. And the result of that would have been chaos, destruction, carrying out an evil force. But his self-talk is similar to someone who's trying to stop that force from occurring.
Dude, we're taught that we're defending good, they're propagating evil. They're taught that we're the evil ones. You know, in their eyes, we're the fucking Nazis.
Yeah.
You know, that's also why I can't blame him, you know? So it is what it is. And it's a really shit thing that the world has come, you know, that's actually always been in a position where there's always a good and evil somewhere. Everyone's always the villain in someone's story, but there's really nothing you can do about it. So
what is it like being high when you're fighting someone? Because I've never smoked and have done Muay Thai yet. I've taken a shot of whiskey and have done a sparring session. I think that helps a little bit, but I've never been high.
So the thing is, I really don't drink, so I would never fight drunk. As far as being high, it's more tolerable. You are lazier, at least for me. You know,
the mental aspect is more tolerable, the physical, or both?
The mental aspect is more tolerable. The physical aspect is harder. It's, you know, dude, when I'm stoned, I just want to sit in a couch and watch movies. I don't want to fucking hike 10 kilometers and then like go get shot
and
at.
Go rip some dude's balls out. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've never ripped anyone's nuts off, but you know, I can if I have to. I just haven't.
Yeah. Well, now in today's society, you could rip a lady's nuts off if they identify that way. You'd be the first person ever to detransition someone.
Is that even a crime yet? Would they have to let me go? I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Exactly.
But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say the physical aspect is harder, but the mental, it's a little easier to sink into.
Yeah, you still get couch lock or chill. Shit is funnier. You know, music is better. We play music before we go out. You know, if we got 30 minutes until we get to an AO, we're gonna go ahead and put it on our fucking phones, and you know, we have YouTube music and all that shit in Israel. So
you have a violent playlist. There's a playlist you have on Spotify where if you're like, I'm about to roll up with my boys and light some motherfuckers up, you have a playlist that's just like destruction.
I think every military dude, even the fucking Romans, had a playlist of trumpets. Like everyone has music that psychs him up, just like a workout. I still listen to a lot of songs that I listened to then. Surprisingly, there was a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers, Breaking Benjamin, which I recently found out is a Christian rock band.
Breaking Benjamin.
Yeah.
I went through a big Breaking Benjamin phase.
You know, Blow Me Away.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had that blaring.
Yeah, I could see if I had a playlist like that, I would have Breaking Benjamin. There'd be some Evanescence, some Linkin Park, some Avenged Sevenfold. Like, just get ready to go.
I used to have one of those little JBL pods that I'd put in my backpack, and we'd blast music out when, you know, we weren't in a period of radio silence. And, you know, it really does also take the edge off. You know, like you got people going like, oh, that's Vietnam music, that's you know, that's Iraq music. Like, you know, music does take a bigger part in warfare than people seem to think for some reason.
It's like drugs. It can literally put you in a different state of mind. There have been days where I am so bent on not working out or not completing some task that I've been putting off for weeks, and I throw a song on and I just do it during the song. I have a playlist and it makes me want to complete that task, which is like a 0.1 out of 100 compared to what you're going into, because you're actually causing violence to people. So I imagine the same essence would carry over, that you can alter your mental state through melodies
in a way. When it gets to the point that, you know, we're actually working, we you know, we're not blasting music at that point. It's kind of the hype us up. When we're in a situation, shit's usually really quiet until it's not, and then when it's not quiet, you don't think, you just do.
Have you ever been engaging with a terrorist group and the playlist stops and one of the terrorists has a song suggestion where they're like, hey, do you mind if we DJ this next fight sequence? And then you guys can pick it again. Like, they're like, yo, we have the aux, like, hold, like, ceasefire. I'm just going to put on this song real quick.
No, dude, we don't let them get that close, but that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I haven't put too much thought into it, but it just crossed my mind right now since we're thinking about it. I wonder what songs the SEAL team that took Osama bin Laden's
Oh,
life,
shit.
like what they were just banging out to, like minutes before they roll up into the compound. I want to know what song was running through the guy's brain that shot Osama bin Laden. Like what got him in the zone where he's like, I'm going to kill the fucking most famous terrorist of all time.
You're going down by sick puppies. There we go.
He legit said that, or
no,
did
no,
it?
no. I'm saying that's my prediction.
That would be
that's what I would play. I mean, then again, I don't think I could ever be a Navy SEAL. So
yeah, fuck. I mean, it would be fascinating to get on that playlist. So how did you get into the jewelry industry? Because it's a wild story.
So I moved back to the U.S. and I had this friend, like when COVID first started, his father died. That sucks. But like his father was like a very well-known jeweler, both in New York and in Israel. He was a diamond dealer. So like he had all these connections and built this, family jewelry empire. So my friend got, into it because he grew up in it. And then when his dad died, he realized like, yeah, he can make a Cuban link chain, but he doesn't know how to run a business. Before I moved to Israel, I got into my own business of, making body armor. Later, I became a gunsmith. So like I knew a little bit about business. I've been to college. He dropped out, that kind of shit. So, you put two and two together. He's like, dude, why don't you, come work with me and let's go make something. So I knew nothing about making jewelry, but, I do have a background in art. So, I'm good with my hands and shit like that. So I really just apprenticed under him for like the first year. And by the end of that period, I was able to do everything he could do. So
you got into it to help on the business side, and then
and also to make money.
And under him, to help money, take a part of the business, and then slowly through that, you actually started making jewelry. Yeah,
pretty much. I found that it was a perfect way to mend my art and gunsmithing because it's something that has to do with metal and creation.
Yeah,
but it's not inherently dangerous. And it's therapy. It's fun to see like a little brick of this dirty looking brass looking gold turn into a Cuban link. Yeah.
So where I first discovered you was on the Chrissy Chaos podcast with Chris Stefano, and you had mentioned walking through a warehouse, like these abandoned warehouses in Brooklyn that looked like a quote CDC lab. So when you walk up to one of these warehouses in Brooklyn, these dilapidated warehouses, what is this warehouse? Like what is going on in there? And B, what is your purpose there?
So my purpose would just be to go bring back and forth gold and money, some jewels. Sometimes it's used as payment, sometimes it's going to go into a product. I guess in just plain English, these warehouses are refineries. They just, they're we buy gold in cash places. So they just get all the scrap gold from everywhere and they just, refine it and purify it and melt bars of, pure 24 karat. The thing I got into on that podcast is are not necessarily done in the most legit way by the most legit people. But as far as the business purpose of it goes, that's really what goes on there mostly.
So it's gold smelting operations that are probably illegal. Or just
there are probably a lot
aspect
of corners being cut to avoid having to give the man so much money.
So you would roll up to one of these warehouses and just like if someone was walking through one of these warehouses, if they wanted the warehouse experience wearing an Oculus, like they're literally just walking through and experiencing it, could you describe to people who are listening like what you would see from the moment you walked up to it, exactly what these buildings looked like? Obviously, like, if you can't be too specific, that's 100% okay.
So just, think of like your average, turn of the century style Brooklyn warehouse, right? You see them all the time. Outside, they look like shit. They got plywood. They're all boarded up, blah, blah, blah. They'll usually have one entrance that's made of plywood. You open that and you'll get to a set of nice doors. They actually have a nice lobby, a nice elevator.
This sounds like where I saw Zed, wearing an abandoned warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
so,
vibe.
it's also not the kind of place that you're going to be able to get into if you weren't expected. Everything will just appear locked and shit like that. You might have a legit security guard come to tell you and fuck off, or her call the police. But once you do get inside, it's typically going down into a basement, not up into upper floors. And you walk in, there's a little clean space where you have to go ahead and put on a Tyvek suit and then get dusted off. You walk through that vestibule and, you got your general hierarchy of employees. You got a bunch of immigrant workers that go ahead and are watched through CCTV cameras, getting gold dust together and smelting it and pouring a bar out, and they take it over to a scale and shit like that. You have a couple private security guards. Some of them are armed, some of them are not, some just pepper spray. You usually got a foreman type. He's running that whole operation, or at least that section of wherever he is. That's really what it is. It's kind of like going to an Escobar grow lab, except instead of, cocaine and weed, it's gold. So it's like some of that shit.
Yeah, I was going to say, it kind of reminds me of, based on what you're describing, the scenes in American Gangster with Denzel Washington. Have you ever seen that movie?
I know what it is. I have not seen it myself. But
so he's a heroin dealer, heroin kingpin that was based in New York.
Yeah.
That would get the heroin straight from the source, but in the movie they show all the girls that are naked, either naked or in suits, that are making the heroin, doing whatever they have to do to sell it, and it's in this lab, and it's just, I guess you can't take anything with you because you're
there's
naked.
a metal detector. They wand people when they come out. You tend to not want to steal from your employer, especially if your employer deals with tens of millions of dollars of gold in a month. That guy probably has connections. There's not a lot of theft that goes down at that level. There's a lot of theft within the industry. People tend to fuck people over within the industry when you get these these jewelers and these big promoters on Instagram. So there's a lot of dirty shit that goes on, and unfortunately that dirty play gets passed on to some of the the end customers. So that's why I said then you always got to be careful when you buy jewelry. Definitely know where it's coming from. Shit like that. How
did your role working for your friend's shop escalate to the point of making these deliveries? Like, was it, did you just get a call from him one day? He's like, yo, I need you to take this bag. Don't ask any questions. Like,
it happened right at the office. It was really? Like, I'd show up to work with we had a factory where we'd make our own product and our Cuban link chains and bracelets and shit and sell them. Normally he'd go by himself and do this, but if he was finishing a job, he'd be like, yo, take my truck and, go drive here. I'll text you the address, take this bag of money, give it to them, bring back the gold. So, my first person view of it was really just a 9-to-5. It was a little weird, the kind of environments and situations I was exposed to. There were a few weird encounters that took place not in a warehouse. I'd meet people at random points in the city and give them finished work for a wad of cash and a rubber band, so it's there was shit like that, but he was pretty nonchalant about it.
So are you allowed to carry a weapon on you because you're dealing with high value things?
Not, especially in New York City.
So if you're on the subway carrying thousands of dollars of gold or jewelry, you can't get a permit for a weapon?
No, and I prefer to be stuck in my private vehicle in traffic.
Okay.
I don't like taking a subway with 6 figures worth of anything.
I was gonna say that. That's a good point. I would just be sweating profusely on the subway carrying bags of diamonds.
I've done
and gold.
it before. The times I've done it, I literally got back to the shop and I told him I don't give a fuck what you say. I'm taking my car. It's one of those things. Yeah.
So what is some of the theft you mentioned that goes on in the jewelry industry that gets passed down to the customer?
Okay. So, let's say we make a chain and we fuck up with the mixtures and it's supposed to be 14 karat, comes out with a purity that's a little below that. We'll sell it, to our client who owns a jewelry store in a diamond district. He'll test it, say it's below. So he'll give us a lot below, even the value that it currently is. But then sell it to his customer with a 14K stamp on it. So, he'll fuck us on the labor and then fuck his customer with his profit, and he'll just make a shit ton of money.
So it's like a repressed pill. Basically, you're taking shitty powder and then you're stamping the Xanax logo on it, and people are like, "Oh, this is pure."
In a way,
Xanax
I mean, it's not necessarily counterfeit. Like, you know, the stuff that's made, it is real. Mistakes do happen. At the point of a mistake, you usually melt shit back down and do it over. But if you're lazy or you just want to make money or you don't really care about your reputation, you'll find a bunch of jewelers that they'll have, you know, 150 legit pieces, and like maybe 7 or 8 of those are like, you know, subpar. And because they have 150 legit pieces, no one's going to question them, you know?
So someone like you, they'll know that it's hard to get one over on you because you're obviously familiar with the pieces and stuff like that. They're trying to trick mostly the customers. Like they're not, or are they still trying to fuck people over in the industry?
I don't buy jewelry at jewelry stores. I go to the people I know because I just don't trust, you know, people in retail. When it comes to the industry, you have to understand that a lot of these businesses are family based. It's you know, it's like Romeo and Juliet. You got the I can't say names, right? But you know, whatever. You got the Goldbergs and you got the Steinbergs. You know, the Steinbergs aren't necessarily gonna fuck over the Goldbergs, but they might fuck over the Gaudis down the street because they're Italians. You know what I mean? So it's like they don't care.
So it's like a jewelry mafia in a sense. You have all the main families in New York or something like that.
What is mafia at the end of the day? It's just a group of people with the same goal, you know? So these are family businesses. They tend to hire from within the family. I mean, is it like, are they also slinging dope in Miami and like, you know, running counterfeit antique cars across the ocean? No. Does it get shady? Yeah. But then again, you have, you know, a husband that wakes up and shoots his wife and kids one morning. So, you know, it's shit like that. It just happens to take place within that setting instead.
Yeah.
So,
is that a specific story you're referring to?
No, not at all. The dead nurse from Israel there was a terrorist that walked into a nurse's house, stabbed her to death along with her 3 young children while the husband was out working.
Jesus.
Yeah. And it was a hospital I lived like a 5-minute walk from. So like I know who it was. It was very fucked.
Do you feel afraid when you're making these sort of deliveries? Or if you don't feel afraid in that moment, are there other moments where your awareness is more heightened, where your sense of fear is raised because it's like a sketchy situation?
So fear is a tool. If anyone ever tells you in any given situation that they're not scared, they're lying to you or they're psychopathic. When I say fear is a tool, it's you use that fear to make yourself more alert. So every place I go, even if I walk into a gas station or a convenience store, you know, I'm always alert because anything can happen at any point. When it comes to me being afraid in scope of what I was doing for work, I was kind of the person that was a little bit higher in the hierarchy than the people I would encounter. So I'd be necessarily the one not to fuck with, you know, like I'm a connection of their boss, you know? So it's like when it goes down to their level, I don't know, you know, maybe they go to work every day terrified for their life. I personally didn't. So yeah.
And I imagine that comes from your Krav Maga training or some of your training in the IDF where you're able to convert fear into effectiveness, or is that just something that you've always had?
So I grew up with a military family. I've been an artist. I've been in the gun business, the armor business, all those kind of things. I think it was really just a togetherness of all my life experience, just also mixing with the fact that I'm spiritual in the sense that, you know, when I'm going to go, I'm going to go. There's nothing I can do to stop it. And if I'm meant to not go, there's nothing that can be done to take me, you know? So it's like, my ticket gets punched. Oh, well, like, you know, I don't purposely put myself in situations where some shit can go wrong, but you know, it's not really up to me at the end of the day. I do what I have to do and I make it out. I don't, that wasn't my choice to begin with.
Yeah. So part of my, if you want to call this research for the podcast, other than looking through some articles and podcasts related to the jewelry industry, I watched Uncut Gems finally.
Oh shit, Adam Sandler.
And I had never seen the movie, watched it about a week ago. And that movie, I don't know if you've seen it, or I'm sure people probably ask you about it all the time, like how much of the shit is real, how much of this is kind of exaggerated. When you watched Uncut Gems, what were the things that stood out to you the most where you thought, oh, someone in this movie knows the jewelry industry really well, because this is shit that happens?
So I know right off the bat it was definitely filmed on location. You know, they did some scenes in the district and shit like that on the block. The thing is, the movie itself really wasn't about the jewelry industry. It was about the dude's gambling problem. And you know, you could work as an accountant or a lawyer. If you have a gambling problem, you have, you know, dudes coming after you, you owe them money. It just so happened that he was in the jewelry industry, so he used everything related to that as resources to feed his own life. Was it exaggerated? Probably yes, probably no, because that's everyone's individual problem that they might be in. You know, some people get shot up in Mexico by an entire gang of cartel. You know, what the fuck did they do to deserve that? Yeah. As far as my experience as it relates to the movie, no, we weren't, you know, going to freaking saves with, you know, other people's watches and pawning them off so we can go ahead and pay the other guy, you know, so it really wasn't like that.
So that's more indicative of his gambling addiction than working in the jewelry industry.
Yeah, dude, it's like Fast and Furious. Everyone thinks it's a movie about cars. It's not. If you watch the first one, it was a movie about undercover police. So, you know, that just happened to be in a racing gang. So it's like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So before I saw the movie, I had heard some things about it where people will comment and say, this is the most stressful movie of all time. Because I watched the trailer and a lot of what I saw were comments in that vein. Like, oh, like who would want to watch this movie? It's like 2 hours of just being stressed out, like fucking full of adrenaline. Yeah. And I was thinking that going off of the gambling aspect, that's part of the genius of that movie. And I enjoyed it because I didn't bet on the game. And spoiler alert, there's, you know, it's a movie about gambling, so it's not really a spoiler, but he bets on a lot of games, and one of them is huge at the end. And during the movie, I had this really meta moment where I was thinking, I have zero money riding on what I'm watching right now, and yet I feel as if I bet on this game personally. And so for me, if anything, that's how you know a movie is good, is it can transport you into a place where you're feeling the emotion of what the main character is going through, and you're sitting in the comfort of your own apartment, sitting on the couch, feeling like, oh my god, I'm gonna fucking lose $50,000, and the movie ends.
It's called suspended reality. So that's, you know, it's what makes every fun experience a fun experience. So, you know, you just transport your mind.
Is there much of a party scene in what you do? Do people get together where it's a bunch of people in the industry and they're just balling out like what you would imagine?
Yeah,
something
dude.
like Uncut Gems or just for like rooftop parties, shit like that.
Like we're not in basements with The Weeknd, you know. I mean, I'm pretty sure some of, you know, the people I've worked with know celebrities and shit. But we have places, you know, because the block is on 47th Street, right above Times Square. A lot of those offices, like, they lease or own floors of those offices and have roof access. So, like, you know, we'll go up to a roof and it's a beautiful balcony overlooking Times Square with a grill and a bunch of people just hanging out. But I think it's more of a cultural thing. It's really just, you know, Jews chilling out with other Jews, and we just happen to do that for work. I don't really think it has anything to do with the industry. It's not like we see, you know, the Indian jeweler across the street doing the same shit. It's just us. So
it's more of a like a cultural vibe, just getting together.
Pretty much.
Just popping off.
Yeah.
Is there a what was I gonna say? I just lost my train of thought.
It happens.
Let's do this. Let's do this instead. So, I was gonna ask you the level of deception in Uncut Gems. So if you don't think about any of the gambling aspect of it, like people attempting to deceive or wiggle their way out of situations, how much of that actually happens on a day-to-day basis where people within the industry are trying to deceive each other?
Okay, so, you know, we not only made jewelry, we also bought jewelry to, you know, melt down and make new shit. I'd say a couple times a day we'd have people try and sell us fake shit. We've had, so we always took place in also the wholesale aspect of the business. So we'd always sell to other stores, but we've also had stores try and trade us shit And, so like they'll trade a chain for a chain, but the chain they traded that isn't what they said is worth a lot less. So like, that stuff does happen on the business end. It happens on the retail end, but that really just, again, it comes down to human nature.
So as a customer, what is your best bet to get high quality jewelry for the price that you want to, like a reasonable price for what you want to pay that quality without getting gypped off? Is there stores that you should avoid? Is there just you have to know someone on the inside? What's the deal with that?
So as a basic rule of thumb, it'd be like shopping for anything. Don't go to fucking Chinatown and buy a $10,000 chain from like a street corner. Don't go to the Bronx.
For some dude in a glass window that has nothing protecting it. Some dude selling you a chain for $10,000.
Yeah, it's like it's a Rolex. Like, no, it's not. Like, I mean, to be realistic, the number one way you can protect yourself is to become a jeweler yourself. That's hard to do. The second best thing you do is to know a jeweler. That's a little less hard, but still hard to do. The third best thing is to just trust reviews. So I would recommend someone, to go to K Jewelers, because they're going to get charged up the ass, but they'll get, real shit. They're just going to overpay for it. If you want to gamble and go to a place that you somewhat know or that's popular in the neighborhood, you'll probably get better pricing, but, you still always run the risk. And the thing is, a lot of these end retailers, they might sell bad merchandise, but, it might not even be their fault. It could be the supplier that they got it from that gave them bad merchandise. So, that comes into account too.
So a lot of the cost is in the markup for the jewelry.
Yeah. The retailers make the most. They sometimes mark up 200%, 300%, 400%. Like, they'll sell a ring that has like $700-800 worth of gold for like 3,000 with like shit diamonds in it.
Yeah. So. What is the most expensive piece of jewelry that you personally made and sold to somebody else?
Dude, it was the same thing that I said in Chrissy's podcast. It was the chain that we made for Jay-Z, dude.
That was the most expensive piece.
Yeah,
okay,
it was
I heard you talk about
kilos,
that.
Dude. Yeah. That's 2,400 grams. It's like you carry the thing and it's like carrying bricks. I don't remember the exact sale price, but it was very close to 7 figures.
What was the actual chain? Because I don't remember if you actually described it. Was it? Did it say Jay-Z or what?
No,
what did it actually look
it
like?
was something called a braided twist rope chain. So it's like maybe about 16, 18 inches long. It almost looks like a choker on a grown ass man. But it's also like 3 inches thick, dude. So it's like, and it's a triple braid of like strands of gold, and the braids themselves are made of individual interlocked links. So you're able to get it to be flexible and stuff like that. But to be honest, that's not something I could ever wear. Like, even if no one would ever steal it, that's just, that's 2.5 kilos hanging on your neck. It doesn't feel good. So
yeah, it's fascinating just going through a lot of the pieces in the rap game that people are wearing, and just looking at different pictures before the podcast and going through the different jewelers that are, they list them as the jewelers to the stars or jewelers to hip hop artists, something like that. Just like the size of some of these pieces and the elaborate construction and how much it is a part of the culture, to the point where if I started rapping next month, one of the first things I would think about is, all right, I need something on my neck. I need even if it's fake, like I need something to show that I am in this game and I am here to stay. I need a flashy piece.
Pretty much, yeah. And then that was really, it was the most major demographic. There's also a small section of people who buy pure gold jewelry strictly for the sake of investment. So there'll be very simple designs, like a simple link and shit like that. And that's, you can technically wear it if the world ends. You got your savings on your neck and you're good. You can barter with it. But they really just throw them in safe deposit boxes and forget about them. They don't wear it.
Yeah. I was going to say, how many times is Jay-Z actually wearing that chain? I would guess he's going to wear that less than
for a music video. Yeah, that was it. Yeah,
I would guess he's got 2.4 million or something like that.
I think it came out to like 1.1 million after taxes. Yeah.
So you're wearing that for a music video. You have it in a safety deposit box or wherever you're going to store it.
And probably keeps it in his fucking bedroom. We give him a real nice display case too, with like a glass top. So like, he probably just looks at it and says, "I'm Jay-Z and I married Beyonce."
Yeah. Good for him. Good for him.
Mazel tov.
What is what are the interactions like typically in those situations where you're delivering $1 million piece of jewelry to a celebrity?
So 9 times out of 10 we'll go to the Diamond District and go to like, you know, a jewelry showcase. A lot of them have, you know, their public storefront, and then they have a private back section. And it's kind of like a casino, you know, where you got like the $10 billion poker games or whatever, right? So we'll go back there to the high roller section, and we'll either meet with an agent that has a check. We very rarely accept cash. Sometimes we do if they fill out the paperwork for it.
What's the reason for that? Is it too easy to fake, or?
No, I mean, we have portable money counters if we are going to deal with cash that can tell counterfeits. Chances are they're not going to try and fuck over a jeweler that can produce a 2.5 kilo chain with counterfeits in the first place. It's hard to explain to the bank, because the thing is, even if we got it legitimately through our labor, if that money's illegitimate in any way, we're obligated to give up, you know, who they were, and we don't want that kind of trouble. So it's like, excuse me. So if someone, you know, comes to us, we typically ask them to do a direct wire transfer to even begin the work for like 80%, and we take, you know, 20% on delivery. If it's someone, you know, like Jay-Z, you know, we'll trust them that, you know, they're a fucking billionaire. We'll collect all of it on delivery. So as far as accepting cash, I would say the most amount of cash I've ever held at any one time has been about $700,000.
Jesus.
And it was in a trash bag, and it was in like 20s and 50s and hundreds, just commingled, and it was insane.
Are you allowed to say who that was from?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
So whoever this was, they just gave it to you in a trash bag.
Yeah,
and were like,
I can say that they were in the entertainment scene, and it was not Jay-Z or Beyonce.
That is wild.
And they're local to New York. That's about it.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about rap, hip hop, like even other forms of celebrity culture, why jewelry became such a thing to signify that you've made it, or that to signify that you're on a certain level. Because there are a lot of things that you could buy that are expensive, but
of course.
Jewelry, I guess it's the flashiness of it, or it's the worth. I don't know.
So the thing is, it didn't become a status symbol. It was the original status symbol. And, you know, if I buy a Ferrari for $250,000, okay, that's great. If I drive it, okay, that's great. In 300 years, it's not going to be a Ferrari anymore. If I have a gold ring and it just sits and no one fucks with it, in 3,000 years, it'll be a gold ring. So, you know, when they found King Tut, they found his gold mask. It looked just like it did the day they put it on there. And that's why I like making jewelry, because it's definitely going to outlive me.
Yeah, it's the longest lasting flex.
Pretty much.
I never really thought about that.
Yeah, dude.
If Jay-Z got buried today
with that rope chain,
in that rope chain, God forbid, you know. But when he does get buried and that rope chain is around his neck, he'll be a skeleton 10,000 years from now. But that rope chain will still look a lot like the original rope chain.
Still be shiny. Like it doesn't tarnish or anything. So
I wonder what people will think thousands of years, or maybe even millions of years in the future, when they're digging up people who were buried with the pieces that are going around today. Because we dig up the mummies in ancient Egypt, and we look at all the gold and all the treasures, and there's not really a lot of stories, like first-hand accounts that you can 100% rely on, because history obviously wasn't as good back then. There's no videos.
Long time ago.
But now with all the information, if you dig up a rapper and then you have a video of him purchasing the gold chain in a jewelry store, like taking a picture with the person who made it, and then he's buried with it around his neck. For people who have no idea what that type of culture is, I can imagine that would seem so strange. Like what was the significance of that
was
moment?
It a ritual or
like, is this a ritual? You enter the rap game, you get 1 million streams, and then you put a piece around your neck, and you're like digging this up 1 million years from now, and you're like, oh, this was like a sacred hip hop ritual. When in reality, it's like there's a lot of, you know, casualness to it.
Dude, there's like I used to joke, I forget the main joke and I forget with who, but I used to joke around. I was like, dude, if like archaeologists like 3,000 years from now start digging shit up, they're going to think we were a pretty fucked up race. You know, they're going to see like, You know, like right now you live in Jerusalem. Jerusalem's like 4,000 years old. You got modern apartments there. They're going to find Wi-Fi routers 1,000 years from now. Be like, holy shit, Moses had Wi-Fi. Like, so it's like, you really can't say. And, there's also probably a bunch of reasons why like aliens don't want to play with us. We're very hard to understand species as it comes. So it's just weird. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's like, to me, jewelry means money. I don't even wear jewelry, dude. My fucking necklace is steel. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, it's purely something to get good at in business. Like you pride yourself on being able to do it well, and it makes you money, and pretty other much. People enjoy buying it.
Yeah. That's about it.
So I have a few relevant pop cultural topics and questions we can get into. So Dave Chappelle recently got attacked on stage while he's performing stand-up comedy. And I was thinking that, yes, rappers do sometimes get attacked on stage, but it seems like they have more of a street cred to them. Rappers have like the street cred built into it. Should comedians like Dave Chappelle start rocking huge pieces like rappers on stage to intimidate people from coming on and slapping them? Like, do you think Will Smith would have slapped Chris Rock across the face if he was wearing a huge diamond piece?
Dude, probably not, but I think someone in the street could have killed the guy. I mean, I'll tell you straight up, when Jay-Z rolls around with bodyguards, dude, would he fight you? Yeah, he probably would, but he's going to rely on the people he hires to do the work. So it's like, I think if you wear a chain, the only thing you're going to do is make yourself more of a target, if you were a target in the first place. And I think if you weren't a target in the first place, having a chain, like if you think about the history of rap, most of these rappers are famous now, but back then they lived in the hood and they gangbang. They weren't rich and weren't famous. They didn't have chains like that and shit, but people still didn't mess with them. It's all about reputation.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're getting in a confrontation as a celebrity, you're not doing shit. Like your bodyguard is gonna take care of it for you. I guess you could swing the chain and use it even as a weapon if you really wanted to.
Gold's heavy, man.
But your bodyguards are most likely gonna take care of it when you're at Jay-Z's level.
Pretty much.
So there was just a big Senate hearing on UFOs.
Oh shit. Okay. I think I've seen that on Google. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was not a lot of new information that came out. There were videos that were released recently, like the Tic Tac UFO, these declassified videos. Yeah. I don't know if you've listened to the whole account with David Fravor and the Tic Tac UFO.
No.
You should go check it out either on Joe Rogan or Lex Friedman's podcast. Like this guy was a Navy pilot, very highly trained, obviously knows what he's doing. Respectable, has a good reputation, no history of mental illness or anything like that. And he gives a very detailed account of a UFO, an unidentified flying object. And it was referred to as the Tic Tac because that's what it looked like according to him, this Tic Tac shaped oblong thing. And many of these videos were declassified, and it's actually a somewhat regular occurrence to pilots that are in the Navy or in the Air Force.
It's Foo Fighters.
Yeah, it's a thing out there. UAEs, unidentified aerial. Are UAPs, and so the government will actually releases information saying to the pilots, we know these things are out there. We don't know what they are.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, when we make contact with aliens, which I believe, if we haven't already, we will eventually with another species, another form of intelligence. Should we gift them with a piece of jewelry so that they don't want to kill the entire human race? And if so, what would you gift the first alien when we officially make contact with that species?
I mean, if you look at gold from a scientific standpoint, or platinum or whatever, these are incredibly inert objects. So, like Star Trek, it'd be hard to reproduce it in a replicator, right? So would it be a good thing to give them? No. And that's only because we hold it as valuable. But gold isn't valuable. Gold it comes from space. It's made when stars explode, and just some of it got sprinkled on Earth. There's entire planets and asteroids that are, they have billions and billions of times more gold than we have. But let's say we do decide to give them a piece of jewelry. What would I give them? Holy shit, dude. Like, I mean, like,
it's a big moment because that alien could become offended to any action or object. That alien's version of offense, whatever that is, if it's even a spectrum of emotion. I think
he'll look at it and his whatever he has, his tentacle, and be like, what the fuck is this? And just, if they made it here, we're probably all going to die. They're probably going to colonize. It's probably going to be like that. Do I believe in aliens? Yes. Part of it's because I'm a Jew. I think they were already here. My point is, though, I don't even think you'd give a gift in that situation. There's such a difference in cultural everything that, like, what if in their culture, just if you give something of yours to them, that's a sign you want to kill them. Like,
that's true.
But if I had to give them something, I don't know. I'd probably just give them the most perfect orb, like spherical orb of solid gold I could muster, and just be like, here, that we worship this. Please don't kill us.
Yeah. And you said gold comes from dying stars or supernovas, things like that.
Yeah.
To an alien civilization, if they see something that comes from an exploding star, maybe they think, oh, this is a symbol that we're going to try to blow up your race because you're giving us basically God's jizz in the universe. Like gold just fucking blew out there and they're saying like, we're going to colonize you. We're going to be like the Vikings of your civilization.
Yeah, but then again, if we're talking about aliens, they probably come from a place where they have the same shit. They probably have gold on their planet. I mean, we could get lucky and they have none and it blows their minds and, they make us immortal, but chances are they're gonna know what the fuck it is too. Especially if they got here, they're gonna find it elsewhere. I mean, dude, I don't know. I mean, I think it'd go the way of Independence Day, except for the last scene, and there's nothing we can give them, man.
Yeah. Like, do you think about the gravity of the history of gold while you're making it?
Yeah,
because it's such a, people, scientists believe that it was here before rocks with carbon dating.
Probably was.
I was just quickly, I was looking up some information about gold so I wouldn't be a complete dumbass when I'm trying to talk about it. So I looked up what other people wrote that are way smarter than me. So an international team of geologists led by the University of Arizona has discovered that gold is around 3 billion years old. Older than its surrounding conglomerate rock by 250 million years. And that's from Science magazine. That's so insane. You're literally working with material that is older than rocks.
Yeah. I mean, so I do think about that because, in some of the other podcasts, I've mentioned how 2 or 3% of the gold we have and where today is from the Roman Empire. You know what I mean? And all the gold they had was from, way before that. So the gravity of what I'm making, aside from it being something that will outlive me, is also included in the fact that it's been around for so long before me. I mean, we have particles caught up from like comets and shit that have gold that's older than our entire solar system. So like, yeah, I think about that, but like I can't really comprehend it, so it kind of stops there.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy to think about like the working with a substance and making things out of a substance that A, is old as fuck, but B, there's a limited amount of it going around in the earth, that and we've only discovered a small percentage of what's out there. Dude. Supposedly, I was reading that if you melted down all the gold and filled Olympic swimming pools, it would be about 4 of those from what's been made throughout history and discovered. And there's way more than that in the oceans and below the Earth's crust that we may never get to.
It's probably a shit ton in the moon too.
Yeah. And the gold keeps going in circulation. So like what you were saying, you could be wearing a piece that comes from someone else's piece, 4,000 years ago, and then it was from a star 2 billion years before that, and just like this particle that you're wearing in a necklace has billions of years of history behind it. It's so hard for the human mind to comprehend that. Like this thing sometimes I feel that way with trees. Like this big ass tree was here before I was born and is probably going to be here after I was born. To see a piece of gold and think my mind can't even wrap around.
Dude, out where I live now in Hamptons, it's like fucking buildings and windmills that were around like in the Revolutionary War. And I look at that, I can't even comprehend that, let alone something that's billions of years old. So, no, I definitely think about it.
It's funny because I felt the same way when I would see things, monuments, pieces of history in the U.S. And I still do feel a respect and an awe for the older things that I see, like old buildings, old battlefield sites, things like that. And then I went to Europe when I was 12 years old and have been back a bunch of times since. And I'm learning about things that were here like thousands of years ago, dozens of thousands of years ago that we have records of. And I think back to when I was learning about the Liberty Bell in 3rd grade or something. I'm like, that was from 200 years ago? Like,
dude.
No way, that's sick. And it's like, this is from 24,000 years ago. Like this pyramid right here or whatever.
Yeah, and you can touch it. You can touch it, It's someone 3,000 years ago touched it too, probably. Yeah. It's nuts.
So, Amber Heard.
Okay.
Because we have to find a way to weave in the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. So, one actually pretty big part of the trial that kept weaving its way back into the situation is that obviously Amber Heard claimed that Johnny Depp hit her many times, but that he always had rings on. And so the pictures that you were seeing of Amber Heard's, like a pimp slap or punch even. So that the pictures that you were seeing in court were pictures of her being punched with rings and jewelry on. And I don't know if you saw any of the pictures that were presented in the trial of her face.
I probably scrolled through them on Facebook and shit. Yeah.
So there's some, and again, it seems like she's the one that's going to have her world turned upside down because she's lying about a bunch of shit. That's what it seems for me watching the trial.
In the freaking courtroom.
100%. That was a wild video.
Yeah, dude. The fuck.
Like, just see her like hold her nostril and go down and just be like, sorry, what was the question? But yeah, so these pictures that she would show of herself, the few that would show her face, there was some light red marks, maybe some bruising that could have been self-inflicted, could have been done with makeup. And she was saying that Johnny Depp was always wearing rings when she did it, when he did it, when he would slap her or punch her. So with what you know about jewelry and wearing rings, what would it look like if someone got punched in the face with rings on? Like, what would that actually do to the human face?
All right, so first of all, I think it depends on the ring. If I'm wearing like a smooth wedding band, probably won't be much of a difference. But if I'm like, if I'm wearing like he's Johnny Depp, he's rich, right? So if I'm wearing like a 5-6 carat stone that's held with like 8 prongs that are like heavy duty, like that'll cut you, that'll break skin and make you bleed. It's a common known method of torture to actually wear rings when you're beating someone up. It's a way to get kind of like brass knuckles without having brass knuckles, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it might seem insignificant, but if I have like a 25-gram fat ring, that's gonna increase my momentum and inertia and give my hand something to support itself against. So instead of my fingers collapsing into my palm, they go fully into my target.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because it's literally preventing it from caving in. It's like supporting your hand and inflicting more damage at the same time.
If he's like allegedly beating her with rings like that, like she'd have busted lips and cheeks and fucking eye sockets and fractured bones and shit like that.
And Johnny Depp has done very well, to say the least. So he's probably got some stones on there too. If Johnny Depp even pimp slapped me, I would have scratches, blood, bruising.
That's fucking Jack Sparrow, man.
Dude. He's got to train at least a little bit, I'm sure, to be able to pull off those rope swings on the pirate ship and all that stuff.
Pull a punch. It's not that hard, especially if you got rings on you.
Yeah. And so obviously there are a lot of sketchy things that Amber Heard said in the trial, but when she was saying, Johnny always had rings on and he would, hit me with the rings on and all this stuff. And then when I would see the pictures that were being correlated to those moments, that was one of the first red alerts that went off in my head where I'm like, I've never been hit with rings, but if you get hit with the ring, it's going to look worse than if you slid your face against a carpet. Like if you got like a rug burn.
And she's not talking about some little dainty, but she's like, we're talking about rings. Like, no, you'd see that. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I agree.
So because jewelry and gold specifically is easy to melt down and turn into other things, are there illegal industries like drugs and guns that get mixed in with the gold because it's so you could get rid of it? Basically, jewelry is a high cash business, and so you can launder it within the gold.
Gold is money, and that's all you need to know about it. There's not a single fucking criminal on earth who would not take payment in gold as long as he knows it's real gold.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd rather take payment in gold instead of like cash and shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
So there's a lot of the crossover between the triangle of drugs, guns, gold. You can use gold.
Especially with drugs and gold. I've actually seen drug transactions involving gold. So it's a thing.
If you're looking to stay in the gold business long term, it seems like those type of situations would be like I don't imagine being able to make drug and gun transactions for a very long period of time while I'm also trying to build a legitimate gold business or jewelry business. I feel like there's a cap on the amount of time those guys walk around.
It's like, you ever seen Boardwalk Empire?
No, but I know what it is generally.
There's a phrase where the dude tells the other dude, look, you can't be half a gangster. All right. So when you come down to the people that are legitimate or illegitimate, that's pretty much the path that they're set. Every now and then you get the one-off person that they go illegitimate to get the capital to then go legitimate, and they're really just desperate at that point. But then, I mean, you know, if you start out as a piece of shit, you're probably gonna die a piece of shit after staying that way your whole life, and vice versa. So when it comes down to people that are cool with, like, you know, dealing with guns and drugs and people and gold and shit like that, they're always gonna do that. Is that something that should be the face of the industry? Absolutely not. Is it something that happens a lot in the industry? Yeah, pretty much. And that's only because gold is what it is. It's money. It's untraceable. It can be split up and last forever.
Yeah, if you want to be a gangster, you got to be a full gangster. There's no such thing as half a gangster.
No half measures. Hell yeah.
That sounds like it would be out of a gangster self-help book. Like if a gangster wakes up in the morning and is like, damn, I'm not really feeling like too much of a gangster today.
Villainy for dummies.
Yeah, he reads that with his coffee and eggs. He's like,
pretty much.
No one was ever a half a gangster.
I drive in my car and I listen to an audiobook of The Art of War. That's how I think all the time. So I'm pretty sure, there's shit like that out there if you look hard enough.
Is there anything that sticks out to you about The Art of War, that the parts that you're going through right now? Because I've never read it, but I know it's a famous tactical book, obviously, for warfare.
It's not just for warfare, it's for business and life. I think the number one rule is the first rule: all warfare, and in those terms conflict, is based off of deception. So that's what wins wars.
All warfare is based off of deception.
Yes.
Does it give examples in the book? Like, does it say...
Yeah, dude, Trojan horse. We're sorry we fought with you. We made this big-ass horse out of our ships as a gift. Can you accept it? They accept it. Shit ton of soldiers come out of the horse at night and slaughter the city.
Yeah.
That's deceptive as fuck, and it worked. Like, twice.
Is there something like that within Krav Maga where you are providing deception towards an area of a person's body? Like, you want them to think you're gonna do this,
like a fake out?
Yeah, like a fake out.
Yeah, you don't get like football pump fakes and shit like that. I think the deceptive factor when it comes to Krav Maga is you're presenting yourself as an easy target when you're not. It's like having a sleeper car in a street race. Okay. You know what I mean? It looks like it won't be a big challenge, but then you're dead.
Okay, so that would be the connection for hand-to-hand combat, because I'm just trying to think how that would apply to not only hand-to-hand but also to business. So you would want someone, if you would want someone to think they could easily attack you in some area, and then based off of what they do, that would open them up.
Put it this way: when you want to defend yourself, you defend yourself, and that means putting yourself beyond the ability of the enemy to attack you. When you attack the enemy, you do it indirectly. You don't face an enemy head on. You go after where they are defended the least. And if they're defended in all places, then you can fake an attack in one place to get another place less defended and then really attack that place and win.
Interesting. So if you're going to apply that to business, how would you apply deception to run a profitable business or use some sort of deception to move forward what you're doing?
So, let's say I'm a nobody, and we'll just use jewelry as an example, and I want to break into the jewelry industry. Let's say I got lucky enough that I have a silent financier who's willing to give me $10 million to get started. I'm not going to run down to Diamond District saying, hey, I got $10 million. Come and work with me, because people that have $10 billion are going to run me out of the game, and I won't have my 10 mil or his 10 mil anymore. You have all that capital. No one needs to know it. You go in there as a small fry, get people into a position of vulnerability where they don't think you're a threat, and then you strike. And when you strike hard.
That's like the opposite of social media nowadays, like deceiving by making it seem as though you have less resources than you actually do.
Yeah, and the same thing works in the military, dude. If you're big and strong, you don't want them to know you're big and strong, because they're going to work on getting stronger. If you look weak and they let their guard down and they attack you, they're going to realize that they were deceived.
Yeah, it's an interesting back and forth, because if you present yourself as a high value target, whether you look like you can fuck someone up or you're wearing things that make others perceive you as high value in the hip hop industry or something like that.
Yeah.
By you flexing financially or physically, you're opening yourself up. Whereas if you were willing to take a hit to your ego, and other people might think like, what's that dude's deal? Like, he drives a fucking Toyota Camry, doesn't wear any jewelry, something like that. He's not going to be able to move the ball in business. They let their foot off the gas, and then you just blow past them.
I mean, you don't want to put yourself in a position that you seem so weak that no one wants to give you a chance. You just want to have a couple aces up your sleeve, using jewelry again. If I want to go ahead and open up a store and I want to approach a partner and he's going to ask me, hey, how much money do you have to buy all your inventory wholesale? If I have $10 million, I'm going to say, look, I got $1 million to buy shit. He'll think $1 million is enough to play with, even if he won't take me that seriously. I'll be able to do that, make my profit, still have $9 million in the bank to come back with. Be like, look, I turned that $1 million into $9 million. Then he's gonna say, "Holy shit!" And that's where opportunities open up. So,
I'm gonna just take a piss real quick, and then I'll come back and we'll wrap it up.
Hell yeah! That's so surreal sounding through the fucking headphones. Like, I feel like it's an out of body experience. Like,
dude, I'm still not used to it. I will have moments where I'm recording a podcast and I'll feel like I'm not even there. Like a legit out of body experience, because I'm hearing my own voice. And it's not negative or positive for me. It's just different.
To me, it's kind of like flying an airplane. And like, you got that disembodiment and shit in order to communicate. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to get used to, but yeah.
Have you flown? Have you flown a lot of airplanes?
I was a Civil Air Patrol cadet all throughout high school, and you got some basic lessons in flying aircraft.
Yeah, my older brother is interested in learning how to fly, and I've always thought that getting him lessons, especially out here in Long Island, there's the Farmingdale Airport, places that aren't too far away. Yeah.
Costs about $10,000 though to go through all the classes. It's pretty expensive. So
if me and my brothers, my other brother, would chip in to like at least partially fund the lessons from my older brother. But flying a plane, you would say, if you can afford to get the lessons, would definitely be worth it as an experience.
Dude, I find it easier than driving, and it's more fun too. A plane actually wants to fly. Like, it's actually hard to crash a plane. You have to really want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, something can also go catastrophically wrong, but look at how many people get in car accidents every day. It's all like 3 on the way here. Yeah. So it is what it is. Yeah. But
do you feel like it's meditative at all? Because I feel like when you're in a plane, obviously I've zero experience flying a plane. There's not a ton of traffic around you unless you're flying around other planes.
So like the big thing they teach you about are like fly zones. Like, for example, I think you have Class A airspace over New York City. So like that's only government and commercial, like with permission. There is something called the Hudson Corridor where like regular private pilots can fly up and see the city and shit. Other than that, you get to like Class B and Class C airspace, and that's, you know, just like driving. Different altitudes kind of depend what direction you're going, you know, that way you don't run into each other. It's pretty hard to crash airplanes together. I will say this, dude, that there was a thing I did called a solo. So it's actually in the Civil Air Patrol. It's the first time you go up in a plane by yourself, take off, fly, and land. And that morning, dude, I was living with my older brother at the time, and like, I'm a big ass pothead. He's a big ass pothead. I didn't really smoke during that time, but I was running late. I was going to grab breakfast from the fridge, and it was an edible, dude, in some aluminum foil, and it didn't hit me until I was on the taxiway to like take off.
So you were flying your first time high?
Dude, no. I flew like a good like 10 or 20 times before that. That was the first time I flew without an instructor.
So your solo was your first solo was high.
Exactly.
Holy
and it
shit.
just hit me, dude. I was talking to Tower. This is at MacArthur Airport, and they're like, you know, Cat Flight 3123, ready for takeoff, runway 36. I was like, what? Like, you're like,
I'm literally on another planet. You're gonna have to,
and it felt like fucking spaceship. Like it was nuts. I mean, you know, whatever. I get stoned, I drive. You know, it is what it is. I allegedly do that, and like, you know, it's the same thing. Once you know how to do something, it's really muscle memory. But it was a big psychological hit that afterwards I was like, wow, that was really probably something I should have not done. But like by the time I realized it was too late, dude. I was literally on a taxiway, and it's like, if I had stopped and like told them what happened, like I'd get kicked out of CAP. So it's like, you know, you do what you got to do. So that was pretty fun. Yeah.
When you're in a situation like that, how do you prevent the typical anxious negative thoughts that are creeping into your head? Because I'm imagining, I've been sitting high out of my mind on my couch, and I have thoughts where I think I'm gonna die, and I'm sitting on a couch. Shit. How do you navigate a plane when you're just high as balls?
There's actually a name for that feeling that I learned. It's called the impending feeling of doom. And when I was in the Army here and I couldn't smoke like real weed, I smoked that K2 bullshit.
Yeah, it's like what meth heads would smoke in Florida when they ran out of money, and they just eat people's faces.
Gas station weed. Yeah, dude. So that was the only drug that ever gave me that impending feeling of doom. And the funny thing is, when I was younger, I didn't really get that anxious. Now that I'm older, dude, like, you know, every now and then I'll have to pop like a Xanax and shit, because like, you know, it's just like things get nuts. But when it comes down to like smoking bud, it calms me. I don't get that paranoia and anxiety and shit like that. So I mean, I just had to be like, yo, don't fuck up and draw attention to yourself. Like, and as long as I do that, I'll be fine. That's really what I tell myself.
So you were relatively relaxed for that situation where you're flying solo. You think you would have been more anxious if you were completely sober?
I actually probably would have been, to be honest. And it was a great experience. I would not recommend it. It's dangerous. You could put other people's lives in danger. If I could go back in time, I would undo it. But having already done it, it was fun as fuck. I can't lie.
Speaking of high experiences in planes, I went skydiving last year over the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
And I did it sober. I presume my instructor was sober, and he was a great guy.
Okay.
And as we were, as we finished the descent, so it's so fucking cool. I'm definitely gonna do it again. Just the weightlessness feeling of wind rushing past your face. You can't hear shit. You can't think about anything else because just the forces of nature are so in your face and in your mind that it's like velocity. It's like this the most intense, forced, meditative, peaceful state I've ever been in my life is at 45 seconds before they pull the chute. And on the way down, you can hear each other a little bit once the parachute gets pulled when you're gliding. And I said, oh wow, it would be sick to have a beer up here right now. Just
and
be
you had like a
beer.
ripcord and shit that you had acted. That's
just
nuts.
pulling a going over the Grand Canyon in a parachute, sipping a beer. This would be incredible. And I say that to my instructor. And when we get down, he's like, speaking of beer, speaking of beer, when I skydive solo, he's done hundreds, probably thousands of solo skydives at this point. Shit. He said he's been on LSD, he's been on shrooms, he's been high as fuck,
LSD,
he's been drunk, and he was like, yeah, you're not supposed to. Now people are stricter about it. But back in the day, he was saying his instructors would just be fucking blasted jumping out of planes, and it was just part of the culture.
I don't disagree, dude. If I'm jumping out of a plane, first of all, if you're going to live, you're going to live. If it's going to work, it's going to work. If you're going to die, there's nothing you could do about it. I'd at least want to be fucked up if that's the way I was going to go.
Yeah.
Or just experience it, you know? So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely learning sober would be the way to go. And then once I got to a point where I could...
Yeah, that experiment.
Like the what do you call it? The routine is muscle memory.
Yeah.
I would be like, what would this feel like on a vodka soda?
Yeah, that's how I'd go about it too. I mean, I don't drink much, but I'd probably hit a fat blunt before I do anything like that. I mean,
and hearing him talk after we finished the skydiving experience, and he was telling me about how he was learning, and you go tandem at first, and no one's with you in the or other people are with you in the plane, and then eventually you have to get to the point where you're doing your first solo skydive. And when you were talking about your first solo flight, I was thinking about what my instructor was telling me, because there's like this point of no return where you leave the plane and it's just you. No one else is pulling the cord for you.
Yeah.
Because if you're tandem, the guy on your back pulls the cord. You don't have to worry about any of the procedure. You're with other people. But when you do your first solo, it's just like, if I don't do this right, I'm going to fucking die. Like, I'm going to kill myself and no one's going to save me. And everyone who's skydiving or skydiving instructor has to do that first solo. Yep. And I can't imagine going up there in that plane thinking, it is on me if I fuck this up. I need to, because like all these thoughts that pop into your head, just thinking about things on a day-to-day basis, I can't imagine the level of bullshit that pops into your head right at the moment before you jump out, where it's like, oh, did I actually go through the course? Did I just imagine it? Like, did I actually take anything? Like, did someone drug me before I went up here? Like, I would be thinking about so much shit. And then eventually the red light goes on before the door, and the pilot's like, get the fuck out. And then you just have to go for it.
I've never skydived, but I've done something called static line jumping. So the unit I was in the IDF, we were something called a Sayeret. I was in Sayeret Rimon, and that's sort of like not like Navy SEALs, but they're like a specialized task force, and all Israeli specialized forces like that have to qualify with 5 jumps from a plane. So we don't have a ripcord or anything like that for the main chutes. What you do is, like, you have a line connected to the parachute rigging, and you hook it up, and when you jump out of the plane, like, as you fall, it pulls the line and pulls the chute, and then you have a ripcord for a secondary chute if it fails. But I've done that, and that's nuts. And it's actually because I've done that I never want to do it again or go skydiving, because that's my biggest fear, dude. I don't like falling to my death.
So like, it's specialized line jumping.
Yeah, static line.
Static line jumping.
So it's just like you see in, like, you know, the World War II movies. Like, you know, the planes are more modern now, but it's just guys fucking jumping out, and it's a big line attached to the side of the plane with a hook, and it'll just hook you out, and that's it.
Is it like that scene in the Dark Knight, kind of, where he jumps out of the plane and there's a hook attached to the plane? Obviously that movie is production out the ass, so it's not exactly the same, but Batman jumps out of Batman glides to the building, fights a bunch of dudes, takes someone in his arms, and then there's a hook from the plane that picks them up, and they're like being held in midair by the plane.
So here's the thing. I don't remember much of that movie, and I know I've seen it, that's why it sucks. But static line jumping is like you hook up to your main pool line when you're still inside the plane.
Okay, so you hook up before.
And it's almost like, you know what a carabiner is for climbing? So it's like, you know, those keychain looking things that have the hook. So it's like you hook that up, and that's what pulls out. So you do that when you're inside the plane, and it's like a clothesline, and it like glides along the top of it until it gets, you know, to the end and pulls.
Okay.
So it's pretty much like that. It's not like from as high up as like skydivers. It takes like 4 seconds before like you're in the chute, another like 2 seconds before you hit the ground. So
and does that line stay attached the whole time while you're in the air, or does it eventually break off at some point?
It stays attached to the plane, and it pulls itself off of your parachute rigging.
Okay.
So it's like it's meant to detach from the parachute and stay on the plane.
And you went through that
You do it 5 times.
You did it 5 times, and
qualify.
after that, you said, I'm never skydiving.
Like my personal, like if I stayed in the Israeli army and like there was a war that required us to like parachute into a place, I probably would have done it again. Almost everything we did was on the ground or in vehicles, so I never had to. But like now, not being in that kind of occupation, like I would never go skydiving for real. Like that shit terrifies me.
Was it the fall, the actual fall itself?
Dude,
was it the anticipation, the sudden stop, the pulling the chute?
Nah, the hitting the ground, dude, that shit doesn't work. Like,
well, yeah, well, at that point, then you're just you don't even experience it. It's like a sudden just. Boop, like you
just get deleted from existence. Like, dude, but there are like people, like 3 or 4 that have actually survived that shit too. That's what's scary. Like,
I've heard about that. Like people that fall through tree lines or they hit off something at a weird angle,
or like a fucking power line and it breaks their fall at the last second, but they still fell to 10,000 fucking feet. Like, no, thank you. Like I said earlier, I don't put myself in situations where I can increase my chances of losing a game of life. You know what I mean? So it's like that.
Let me push back a little bit. So I'm also scared as shit of the parachute not working, and that was obviously at the front of my mind when I jumped out of the plane attached to this guy, thinking right up to that moment, well, fuck, I just have to accept that there's a very small chance I'm going to die. One of the things that I learned about skydiving, and it even said this on the Grand Canyon website, was that you have 10 times higher likeliness of getting killed on the drive to our airport than you do jumping out of the plane. So don't statistically that will hopefully ease some of your fears going into it. Knowing that, would that ease some of your fears of skydiving?
Nah, dude, it just makes me more cautious driving. Like everything can kill you, man. Like just because one thing has a higher chance of killing me doesn't mean I'm going to do the second thing that can also kill me, because then that technically doubles my chance of dying, does it not?
Yeah, it's like so you're going to drive anyway. You don't want to add another
falling
risk,
out of a plane.
A risk on top of that.
Yeah, pretty much.
It would be a sick fight scene, though, like a skydiving Krav Maga fight scene.
Dude, I think they had that in like Crank with Jason Statham. Guy fights with falling from a helicopter or some shit.
In Mission Impossible, there's one too where one of the guys passes out and Tom Cruise is kind of trying to save the dude in midair.
Okay.
And he actually learned to halo jump. Certified solo halo jumper.
I've never done that shit.
That's
nuts.
I think it's 15,000 plus feet, but he was doing it way higher than that.
Where you need like oxygen mask.
High altitude, low open. And he learned how to do that for the movies. Absolutely fucking crazy.
Dude, we had guys in the military that did shit like that, and those are the real fucking crazy. And they're the nicest guys ever. That's the thing. But like, they'll jump out like from like 30,000 feet into the water. Like
without naming someone, obviously, is there a guy that you met or a friend that stands out who is one of those dudes that you know well, where it's like he's just 160-pound dude walking down the street, but that dude fucking is the wildest, most lethal motherfucker.
Yeah, dude. So like, without naming names, we'll call him Benny. All right. So Benny's actually a really good friend of mine.
Benny the jeweler.
No, not Benny the jeweler. Wow, maybe that's why my brain pulled that out though. But no, not Benny the jeweler. But like, he was my roommate at some point, or I lived with him at least, and he was in a unit called Zanchanim, and those are actual like paratroopers. That's their job. They only jump out of planes to go into shit, and they're like super duper special forces. And he's like, I want to say he's like a good 12 years older than me. So he was in Israel during like the second Lebanon war with like Hezbollah, like in 2006, where it was like real warfare, right? So this guy has jumped out of planes and landed in villages completely surrounded and assisted with making those being completely surrounded not an adjective for his situation.
Yeah.
So like, but he's dude, now he grows avocados in his backyard. Like, he's the chillest dude ever. Just smokes weed with his dogs.
You could drop him in the middle of nowhere and he could fucking make his way back, kill a bunch of dudes, figure it out, and now he's a yoga surfer, whatever you want, like that type of mentality.
Pretty much,
just
dude.
very peaceful.
Like a fucking hippie, man. He hates war and fighting and conflict and all that shit, but he'll like erase you from history.
Yeah, it is weird. A lot of the people that I've known that have the most capacity for violence, so they're not necessarily aggressive, but they could inflict a lot of violence if they do. Yeah. they are also the most peaceful, calm, nonchalant motherfuckers I've met.
Because they see how ugly the world can get, man. It's really fucked. It is.
So as we end off, I have some investment questions about gold versus Bitcoin.
All right.
Because, I'm trying to count those stacks, build my portfolio.
For sure.
What does your portfolio look like? Obviously, without giving exact amounts and things like that, in terms of gold versus stocks versus crypto, things like that. What does your portfolio look like in terms of percentage?
So here's the thing. When it comes to my playing in the investment game, I tend to dip in and dip out. I don't like having assets out of my control or as like numbers on a screen. And don't get me wrong, you can play that game well. You can make a lot of fucking real money doing that. Like, for example, like last year and the year before when Dogecoin like skyrocketed, right? I invested just for shits and giggles like $150, dude, and I pulled out $6,000 in like 3 months as like fun money. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like that's the kind of investing I'm into. When it comes to like gold, like
thank you, Elon.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, and then when it comes to gold, I am the kind of person, I don't like to wear it, but it's a valuable commodity for investment. Yeah. It's always good to keep, even shit like silver, man, even shit like copper. We're talking about things that when it really comes down to it, that's the only thing that you can use for shit. Every single thing on earth, technology or not, analog or digital, uses a combination of all that. So, if you want to go ahead and waste your money, which is, you are wasting your money by buying jewelry to look good, then go ahead and do that. Are you going to be able to get some of your money back? Fuck yeah. You're going to get back like half because you're paying for the labor now. If you want to really invest in gold, buy bullion, buy rounds, buy scrap gold. Gold dust is worth its weight in gold. Don't be embarrassed by the fact that it doesn't look pretty or you can't wear it. That shit is valuable. You melt down gold dust, you get a gold bar. It's as simple as that.
So the fluctuation in gold prices doesn't bother you because it's been an asset, a valuable asset for
it'll probably always be. I mean, during the height of the pandemic, gold actually saw some of the biggest highs it's ever seen, like at least in the United States. They're like $2,000 for the ounce. And I actually haven't checked in a while. I think we're hovering around 1,500-1,600 an ounce now. I remember being a kid, dude, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And gold was like $300-$400 an ounce. So we're talking about a kilo of gold. You can get for $5,000-$6,000. Kilo of gold now is $60,000. So, that really helped or really hurt a lot of people in the industry too. Because either they had all this inventory of shit that was cheap back then and now they're fucking rich, or they didn't buy it in time and they can't even get started now. So
yeah, I talked to a couple guys on the podcast recently that are nuclear scientists. So they, cool. They are. One guy was an expert in non-proliferation agreements and how to properly improve nuclear policy. So basically a lot of like the legal logistics of how countries handle nuclear weapons. And another guy was an atmospheric scientist who specialized more in what a nuclear weapon would do to the earth and bringing us into nuclear winter and all this shit. And we got into the logistics of living through something like a nuclear winter. And one of the things that crossed into the conversation is what the fuck is money gonna look like? What is spending gonna look like if we go into nuclear winter, if countries are just fucking capping off each other with nukes and it kills billions of people eventually from starvation and all the
radiation,
particles and radiation and the way that it affects the climate. What are people gonna use? Because, Fidelity is not going to be running. I can't log into my Fidelity account.
Hell no.
Coinbase is probably going to be on the fritz. I'm literally going to have to go into what's left of my belongings and be like, what is the most valuable shit I have? And
what would you trade me for this?
And I need to ball this up in my pocket and go to the guy on the corner who has a bunch of apples so I can survive.
Pretty much. And that's where the guy that has the 50-gram gold bracelet will be in a better position. Because, dude, think about a bracelet. It's links. You could cut off a single link and that's your food for a week. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to want a fucking iPod, like, when the world's ending. So
what do you think of the comparisons between Bitcoin and gold for people that refer to Bitcoin as some sort of digital gold that is going to retain its value in a long-term way.
I'm not like a crypto expert in any way, but I'm not really a layman. Like, I know enough about crypto to know its basis and what it is and what it's meant to represent. As far as it being connected with gold, it's impossible for it ever to be. And I know that people make that kind of assumption of it because it's a finite thing, but that the fact that it's finite, it's programmed into itself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if it wasn't programmed, it would never end. It only ends when it's programmed to, you know? So the bottom line is it doesn't exist. And it's one of those things, like a lot of things in today's world, that has value because people give it value. It's like, I don't know if you remember, like someone taped a fucking banana to a wall at an art museum,
yeah, and
right?
sold it for $60 million or whatever.
Exactly.
Something like that.
But it's banana and tape. It's like 25 cents, you know, like.
Yeah, if the world goes to shit, you're gonna get exactly one banana for that
value.
Banana. Probably even less, because the guy's gonna be like, "Ew, what's that glue on it from that tape?"
Exactly, and when it comes down to it, life is all about the conversion of energy. You're trying to take energy from the world and put it into yourself. Yeah, so you can go to sleep and wake up another day. Yeah, so
that's a better way of saying it. The connection between Bitcoin and gold, because I don't know a ton about it either. Have some Bitcoin, but someone's going to comment on this from the crypto group and Reddit and be like, dude, you're a fucking idiot. Like, crypto, Bitcoin's not the same as gold. What I'm meant to say was more in line with what you said with people make the comparison between Bitcoin and gold because both of them are finite resources. Bitcoin has a formulaic finiteness to it that's built in, and gold has however much is existing on this planet until we become a multi-planetary species
pretty much
at whatever point.
It's not tangible. If I give you a gram of gold, dude, you can hold it. You can't hold a Bitcoin. So
deep down, what would you say it is about humans that value things like gold and jewelry so much? Like the drive within us to exchange things of high value for something like a gold chain or a bunch of diamonds that isn't the most useful. Like, you can do things with it, but unless you're trading it, like you can't, it's not going to fix your car. It's not going to give you answers on Google or something like that. You can't ask it questions.
So I mean, I think when you bring that topic up, you're talking about market availability. So the reason why we use like the dollar, for example, is because it's not a commodity itself, and itself has no value other than like, you know, the paper it's printed on, but it has an agreed value. So it's like, if I have $100 bill, I can get $100 worth of bananas in it because to you, that piece of paper is worth $100 of your bananas. And when it comes like, you know, but if I have 100 bananas and I find a guy with a fucking Beatles record that so happens to want 100 bananas and I want his record, you know, that'll work too. My chances are, am I going to find that? Hell no. So it's, you know, money is definitely an invention for that purpose, and it's actually meant to be convenient. It's easy to carry 10 grand in your pocket. It's not easy to carry, you know, quarter kilo of gold in your pocket. You know, but then again, it's easier than carrying a BMW on their back. You know what I'm saying? And a kilogram of gold is worth more than a base model BMW. So it goes on what you need. And at the end of the day, like I said, people are going to need that energy to keep themselves going, and that's all they're going to care about. So when it comes to markets develop around that strategy. What is the most efficient way for everyone to get the energy they desire? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I wish I was an economist to go deeper into it.
No, but I mean, that's a really, it's a deep, but also very practical way to look at the exchange. And obviously I'm not an expert in economics or anything like that. I studied accounting in college and somehow passed. So I have some familiarity with that, but seeing currency as a form of energy at its most basic, potential energy explains a lot about the way that we interact with each other as human beings, because we're always trying to do something or gather the potential to do something, whatever makes your life the most fulfilling. If you're boiling it down to what is the point of currency? Currency is a tool to live life in the most fulfilling way possible, and however you choose to, and the most efficient way possible. So for us, that's an immediate need because we aren't here for that long compared to how long gold has been around. We're here in less than a blink of an eye.
Exactly.
And so it's I like that transfer of energy.
Yeah, man. That's it.
To end off, I want to ask you, when you're thinking about your own transfer, your own energy, your own potential energy, and living life the way that you want to live it on your own terms. You've been someone who's lived an extremely interesting life, and we even talked before we started recording how people have reached out to you for podcasts, and you don't think of it as this super fascinating life because you're the one living it. And then when you're talking about it, for me, I'm super engaged, super interested. I know listeners will be as well. For someone who's lived a life like you have, and being a human being who's gathering potential energy, what is your best insight in order to live a fulfilling life? Like, what is the best way or best piece of advice that you've seen or that you've implemented yourself to not gather that energy and then to transform it into a life you want to live?
So I used to live life based on a mantra of, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. And like, just at the core, that's stupid, right? Because you want to live as, as long as possible, just out of logic. And I think over all these experiences, I've kind of come to the conclusion that the basis of all life being easy comes when you have decided to do no evil. Not a single person can change the world. Maybe they can, but it's not likely. But every single person on earth has the potential to make the world worse. And if you just don't do that, the world gets a little better. So that's how I try and exist now, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Do no evil.
Yeah.
Once you decide to make your small corner of the world more positive than it was when you got here, that is the way to use your energy and gather potential energy in the best way possible.
Or at least not worse, dude.
Yeah.
Because that destroys energy, and that just makes it shitty for everyone.
Yeah. Well, Shim Vega, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was fucking awesome. Anything that you want to plug to direct people towards, this is also going to be linked in the podcast itself. So any pages, website, projects you're working on?
So as far as projects, I keep my social media presence in relation to my sports activities. Long time ago, a therapist recommended for me to get into the sport of airsoft to kind of, scratch that itch. So I do have a team called the Valkyrie Directive. We're on all social media. My own personal Instagram where people can reach out to me in relation to, wanting jewelry or any advice like that about the industry is a _Shulei. That's SHULEI. And, I try and be as active as I can. Obviously, as I, do these podcasts and shit, I'm getting a lot of random creepy messages, but I do try and just, help out the average Joe where I can.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you responding to my message because this is how we linked up. So
Hell yeah, man.
Thanks so much, and
anytime.
I'll see you guys next time.
Hell yeah, man.